As the news of Pupil Master's death spread, it caused quite a stir in the entire star field. However, due to the suppression of heaven and earth and the complete confinement of time and space, the surrounding Principal's masters could only watch from afar. The distance was too far. Forget recording the mirror images, even the specific scenes of the fierce battle. No one knew. Therefore, they could only guess how Pupil Master was killed by Jian Wushuang and the other two. However, they were sure that after this battle, the understanding of Jian Wushuang among the experts in the star field had increased by another level. It was normal that the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master and Temporal Temple Master were not very strong, so they could not kill Pupil Master. However, Jian Wushuang had previously suppressed the Ruler Tyrant Axe and Pupil Master. In terms of strength, he was one of the strongest among the advanced rulers. It could be imagined that Jian Wushuang was the absolute main force among the three people who had killed Pupil Master. It was a mystery as to how he had killed Pupil Master. In the void millions of miles away from the battlefield where they had killed Pupil Master, Jian Wushuang and the other two had stopped. Jian Wushuang landed on the ground. Pupil Master has been roaming the three battlefields for many years. He has ignored his status and dignity many times to deal with the Principal's master and seize supreme treasures and opportunities. After so many years of accumulation, he must have an extraordinary wealth and a lot of treasures. Heaven Marquis, please check it out, Temporal Temple Master said. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded and immediately took out the things left by Pupil Master. The red long stick and the supreme treasure armor on Pupil Master's body were both supreme treasures. Jian Wushuang did not need the long stick at all. He just took a glance at it and put it into his interspatial ring. The supreme treasure armor was the real purpose of the three of them to kill Pupil Master. Now that Pupil Master was dead, the supreme treasure armor fell into Jian Wushuang's hands. After all, his body protection ability was extremely powerful. If he had another supreme treasure armor, it would be even more amazing. It's not easy to refine the supreme treasure. It will take me some time to refine this supreme treasure armor. Jian Wushuang integrated his consciousness into the supreme treasure armor. He had a general understanding of the requirements to refine the supreme true treasure armor. These requirements were not difficult for him, but it would take some time. There's no rush. Let's see what good things are in Pupil Master's interspatial ring first. Jian Wushuang began to search Pupil Master's interspatial ring with a hint of expectation in his heart. Pupil Master was indeed a ruler who had roamed the star field for so long and did not care about his reputation. There were hundreds of supreme true treasures in his interspatial ring. My God! There are hundreds of universe true treasures. Pupil Master is really rich. Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master could not help exclaiming. Although these hundreds of true treasures are universe true treasures, they are not too high-end. There are only 3 top-tier true treasures and only a dozen top-tier true treasures. The rest are only elementary and high-level true treasures. He doesn't need most of them himself, and he doesn't have any sect forces or disciples. Why would he need so many true treasures? Jian Wushuang had a strange look on his face. When one's power reached the level of a ruler, especially a ruler who was extremely powerful, it would be easier to deal with him if he was a leader of a sect and had many disciples under his command. What was the use of having so many true treasures? Besides, most of the time, Pupil Master would lower his status to deal with some Principal's masters to get them. He didn't need some true treasures at all, so why would he do that? Maybe Pupil Master wants to collect more true treasures and exchange them for higher-level ones in the 9 Emperor Pavilion? Temporal Temple Master said. That's possible. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. Heavenly Marquis, what else do you see in Pupil Master's interspatial ring besides these true treasures? Temporal Temple Master asked. There are a lot of things. There are all kinds of treasures, elixirs, and some secret skills. There seem to be several in this interspatial ring, Jian Wushuang said as he took out the treasures and secret skills that could attract his attention. He took them out one by one. Although some of the treasures were rare and precious, they did not attract the attention of Jian Wushuang and the other two. On the contrary, 1 or 2 of the secret skills were not bad. For example, the secret skills that Pupil Master had used previously, which could increase one's strength in an instant, were in this interspatial ring. They were recorded on a token. These secret skills are not bad. It's a good choice to leave them for Star Palace or the Divine Beginning Realm. Jian Wushuang smiled. Then he suddenly frowned and said, "It's strange. I killed the 3 rulers of the Devil Cloud Star, so they should have more secret skills. However, they don't have any secret skills that I like in their interspatial rings." Haha. It's easy to understand. Although the 3 rulers of the Devil Cloud Star have a greater background than the Pupil Master, most of the secret skills they cultivate are already available in the Devil Cloud Star. As expected, the way they get the secret skills is through self-comprehension. They leave them directly in people's minds. The secret skills stored in the token of the Pupil Master must have been obtained in the dangerous places in the 3 battlefields. Many of the dangerous places in the 3 battlefields have great origins. However, they have lost their inheritances, so there are no restrictions on these secret skills. Temporal Temple Master said with a smile. I see. Jian Wushuang understood. Then he continued. There is another strange thing. Pupil Master's interspatial ring contains all kinds of strange treasures, elixirs, and secret skills. But why is there no special crystal stone among them? Special crystal stone? Heaven-cleaving Alliance Master and Temporal Temple Master were surprised. There's not a single special crystal stone in the interspatial ring? Heaven-cleaving Alliance Master asked in puzzlement. No, Jian Wushuang shook his head. Normally, even an ordinary Principles Master would have some special crystal stones in his interspatial ring, but the quality is different. Pupil Master, on the other hand, has roamed the Red Cloud world for 5,000 years, not to mention how long he has roamed the 3 battlefields. In the past 5,000 years, he has killed quite a number of Principles Masters. He has even obtained their interspatial rings. Don't tell me that there isn't even a special crystal in their interspatial rings? Pupil Master had roamed the Red Cloud world for 5,000 years. He had killed at least a dozen Principles Masters, right? How could these 10 Principles Masters not have a single special crystal in their possession? Forget about those extremely high-level and extremely rare special crystals, but there should at least be some of those relatively ordinary special crystals, right? My dear Heaven Marquis, quickly check if there are any other special treasures in the Pupil Master's interspatial ring, Temporal Temple Master said. Jian Wushuang nodded and immediately began to check the treasures one by one. In the blink of an eye, half a day passed. During this half a day, Jian Wushuang carefully checked all the treasures in the Pupil Master's interspatial ring. After checking, there was only one treasure that Jian Wushuang was completely unable to figure out. This treasure was the crystal-clear blood-red gourd. It was also the treasure gourd that Pupil Master mentioned. This gourd, is that the treasure that Pupil Master took out earlier? Heaven-cleaving Alliance Master and Temporal Temple Master looked over. I've carefully counted all the treasures left by Pupil Master. I know almost all the uses of those treasures, but I can't see through the blood-red gourd, Jian Wushuang said. Heaven-cleaving Alliance Master and Temporal Temple Master also stared at the blood-red gourd in Jian Wushuang's hand. On the surface, the blood-red gourd did not seem to be anything special. Except for a little crystal, it looked very ordinary. Even when their consciousness covered the blood-red gourd, they did not receive any information. However, the more they looked at it, the more they felt that the blood-red gourd was extraordinary. Heavenly Sword Marquis, try to recognize this gourd as your master. Heaven-cleaving Alliance Master said, this blood-red gourd is so extraordinary. I'm afraid it won't be easy to recognize it as your master, Jian Wushuang said, but he still tried to recognize the gourd as his master. In the end, he actually succeeded in recognizing the blood-red gourd as his master. So easy. Jian Wushuang was stunned. Under normal circumstances, the more powerful the treasure, the more difficult it would be to refine and recognize its master. For the most powerful supreme treasures, the threshold to refine and recognize their master was very high. The value of the blood-red gourd might not be comparable to that of the most powerful supreme treasure, but judging from the devil flame body that Pupil Master had summoned from the gourd, the blood-red gourd should be very powerful. Jian Wushuang did not expect that the refinement of the blood-red gourd would be so simple. In just an instant, it was successfully refined. However, what made Jian Wushuang feel strange was that although he had recognized the blood-red gourd as his master, he still did not receive any specific information about it. He only felt an unprecedented heat and madness from the blood-red gourd. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The blood-red gourd began to tremble crazily. What's going on? The heaven-cleaving alliance master frowned. My young friend, what's wrong with the gourd? Temporal temple master also looked over. I don't know what's going on either, but I can feel that the gourd is very excited and eager, and this desire comes from me. It's as if I have something that can make it go crazy, Jian Wushuang said. You have something that can make the gourd go crazy? Temporal temple master raised his eyebrows. What is it? I don't know. Jian Wushuang shook his head. Then he flipped his hand and took out items from his interspatial ring. He took out some genius treasures, elixirs, and supreme treasures, but the blood-red gourd remained unmoved. When Jian Wushuang took out a purple crystal, the blood-red gourd immediately approached him with great intelligence. Crystal? It wants a crystal? Jian Wushuang's expression changed. After pondering for a moment, he opened the stopper of the blood-red gourd and put the purple crystal into the mouth of the gourd. In an instant, a powerful devouring power erupted from the gourd and directly swallowed the purple crystal. After swallowing the purple crystal, the gourd began to tremble again. Obviously, he still wanted it. Seeing this scene, Jian Wushuang and the other two looked strange. Now I finally understand why there isn't even a special crystal in the interspatial ring left by Pupil Master. It turns out that all the crystals are filial to this precious gourd, Jian Wushuang said with a strange expression. A gourd actually likes to eat crystals? Heaven-cleaving Alliance Master was also very surprised. My young friend, do you have any more crystals in your hand? Try feeding it, Temporal Temple Master said. Jian Wushuang did not hesitate and took out a large number of crystals with a flip of his hand. In terms of killing, he had killed more Principles Masters in the Red Cloud world than Pupil Master. In addition, he had killed a large number of experts before, so those experts had all kinds of special crystals in their hands. Jian Wushuang had kept these special gems in his interspatial ring, so they had been piled up like a mountain. There were many high-level gems and low-level gems. He just took out some of them. In his opinion, he had taken out enough gems to feed the gourd, but in fact, the blood-red gourd had a big appetite. The special crystals piled up like a small mountain were swallowed by the blood-red gourd in a moment. It was obvious that the gourd was still not satisfied. It trembled more and more crazily, and Jian Wushuang could feel the unprecedented desire from the blood-red gourd. The desire did not come from the crystals he took out, but from his interspatial ring. What is in my interspatial ring that makes the blood-red gourd so eager and crazy? Jian Wushuang frowned. He looked through his interspatial ring carefully. Although there were many crystals in it, they were not the source of the blood-red gourd's madness. At this moment, Jian Wushuang's eyes inadvertently caught a glimpse of a corner of the interspatial ring. There, an ancient and strange-looking knife disc was lying quietly. Upon seeing the knife disc, Jian Wushuang's pupils suddenly shrank. He remembered this knife disc very clearly. It was his first time exploring the depths of Devil Smoke Valley. When he passed by the Blaze Sea, he encountered the Blaze Tide, and this knife disc was born from the Blaze Tide and fell into his hands. However, it must be known that when he first obtained the knife disc, the temperature of the knife disc was frighteningly high. He had only grabbed the knife disc for a short while, and then put it into his interspatial ring. His divine power had been directly evaporated by 1/5. Moreover, after the knife disc was put into his interspatial ring, all the treasures in his interspatial ring, except for some of the extremely high-level ones, were all evaporated by the temperature of the knife disc. 1/5 of his divine power was directly evaporated with a single grab. After all, he was a perfect chaos creature. After he put it into his interspatial ring, more than 90% of the treasures in the ring were also evaporated. Just these 2 points alone showed how incredible the knife disc was. Jian Wushuang had always known that this saber disc must be extraordinary. He had been unable to recognize it as his master all these years, so he could only throw it into his interspatial ring. As the temperature of the saber disc gradually decreased, it did not have much effect on the other treasures in the interspatial ring. It could be said that the saber disc had completely calmed down, but Jian Wushuang had never forgotten it. Now that he saw the blood-red gourd swallowing those special crystals and the unprecedented madness and desire it gave him, Jian Wushuang thought of the saber disc. Although the special crystals I just gave to the blood-red gourd can be considered precious in this star field, they are not too rare. It's the same for a star field. In the entire vast universe, the crystals I gave him could only be considered ordinary, but the saber disc is different. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes. Jian Wushuang did not even know what the material used to refine the knife disc was. But he was sure that the material used to refine the knife disc was much higher than the crystals in this star field. It was very likely that the knife disc was the thing that the blood-colored calabash desperately desired. Let's see its reaction first. With a thought, the knife disc appeared in the void in front of him. As soon as the saber disc appeared, the surrounding void immediately became hot. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. The sound of the void being burned had begun to ring out. Jian Wushuang did not dare to hold the saber disc in his hand. He was afraid that the saber disc would melt his palm directly. The moment the saber disc appeared, the blood-red gourd indeed became restless. Even the heaven-cleaving Alliance Master and Temporal Temple Master could sense the fervor of the blood-red gourd, let alone Jian Wushuang, who recognized it as his master. What kind of treasure is this saber disc? How could it make the blood-red gourd so crazy? Heaven-cleaving Alliance Master could not help asking. Even I have never seen the material of this saber disc. How did you get it, Heavenly Marquis? Temporal Temple Master also asked. Although they were both rulers and knowledgeable, they could not tell the material of the knife disc. I got this knife disc by luck in the Blaze Sea. I've been keeping it in my interspatial ring. I didn't expect the gourd to be so eager for it, Jian Wushuang said. I'm hesitating whether I should give it to the gourd to eat. This, Heaven-cleaving Alliance Master and Temporal Temple Master looked at each other in dismay, but they did not say anything. Jian Wushuang was also in a dilemma. He could see that the scarlet gourd was very eager to eat the saber disc. As for what would happen after it was eaten, Jian Wushuang did not know. However, the saber disc was not an ordinary object. At least from the process of Jian Wushuang obtaining it, the value of the saber disc was extraordinary. It was just that Jian Wushuang was unable to display its value now. That was why he hesitated whether he should give the knife disc to the blood-red gourd to eat. After hesitating for a moment, Jian Wushuang finally made up his mind. Eat it. Although the knife disc is of extraordinary value, I don't know its use. If I'm not mistaken, I won't be able to figure out its use in a short period of time, even before I become a ruler and travel to the depths of the universe. However, the crisis in the divine beginning realm is imminent. I must cherish all the resources that I can use now. I can't wait until then. Since I can't use it now, I might as well use it to complete the blood-red gourd. Jian Wushuang had thought about it carefully. Perhaps he would feel pity when he found out the value of the cutting tool, but he would never regret it. For him, no matter how valuable the treasure was, as long as he did not use it, it would be useless. With Jian Wushuang's permission, the blood-red gourd immediately became excited. It flew to the edge of the knife disc and aimed its mouth at it. Boom! A devouring power that was dozens of times stronger than the special crystals it had swallowed exploded from the blood-red gourd. Although the knife disc was extraordinary, it was ownerless. After being swallowed by the blood-red gourd, it could not resist and was directly swallowed by the gourd. Jian Wushuang, the heaven-cleaving Alliance Master, and the Temporal Temple Master stood around the blood-red gourd, waiting for its reaction. Suddenly, boom! A terrifying soul aura suddenly rose from the blood-red gourd. Ha ha! I'm awake! I'm finally awake! Blood blaze iron. It's all because of this blood blaze iron. Ha ha! An earth-shaking laughter suddenly echoed in the sky. The laughter even swept up the blood cloud above, causing the world to tremble. The expressions of Jian Wushuang, the heaven-cleaving Alliance Master, and the Temporal Temple Master all changed. At this moment, the soul aura that suddenly rose from the blood-red gourd was absolutely something that the three of them had never thought of before. Moreover, judging from the wild laughter of the soul aura, it was obvious that the other party had been sleeping in the blood-red gourd. It was because he had just swallowed Jian Wushuang's saber that he woke up. But the key point was this soul awakening good or bad for them? It was not something that they could control. One principle's master and two chaos masters? Did the principle's master refine the gourd? And is the scarlet blaze iron yours? Haha! I really have to thank you. Without your scarlet blaze iron, I don't know when I would have woken up. In order to repay you, I will enjoy your divine body. In addition, I promise to use your divine body to make a name for myself in the universe. Wild laughter echoed. The soul that originally existed in the blood-red gourd surged out from the blood-red gourd and covered Jian Wushuang's body. What? Not good. Jian Wushuang, the heaven-cleaving alliance master, and the temporal temple master's expressions changed drastically. Judging from the words of the soul, it was obvious that it had bad intentions. The problem was that the soul was too strong. It came toward Jian Wushuang, and neither the heaven-cleaving alliance master nor the temporal temple master could stop it. They could only watch as the soul entered Jian Wushuang's body. Jian Wushuang suddenly woke up. Is this possession? Possession, when a soul enters another person's divine body, it forcibly destroys the soul and takes possession of the other person's divine body. This is called possession. Whether in this star field or in the entire universe, possession was an extremely vicious and ruthless method. Jian Wushuang also did not expect that the soul in the blood-red gourd would directly possess him as soon as it woke up. Although he immediately reacted and tried to stop it, it was too late. The soul had already entered his divine body, and a terrifying soul power had already engulfed his soul. Destroy it! A deep and evil voice suddenly sounded in Jian Wushuang's mind. The soul power was too powerful, much stronger than Jian Wushuang's own soul. Although Jian Wushuang had a soul treasure to protect his body and he did not have many souls, under the attack of this soul power, his soul began to collapse almost instantly. There was no room for struggle. In just a moment, Jian Wushuang's soul was destroyed. Haha! It's too easy for me to possess a mere principle's master. After the soul body destroyed Jian Wushuang's soul, it smiled disdainfully and prepared to completely control Jian Wushuang's divine body. But at this moment, buzz, a large amount of soul power crazily gathered, and in the blink of an eye, Jian Wushuang's intact soul appeared in front of the soul body again. What? The soul body was shocked. How is it possible? I have completely destroyed your soul. Just now, he had completely destroyed Jian Wushuang's soul, so he could not sense any trace of Jian Wushuang's soul aura. But in the blink of an eye, Jian Wushuang's soul was completely intact? What was going on? Could it be? This soul body had quite a background, so it was naturally very knowledgeable. After seeing the situation, he immediately thought of a possibility. Perfect life. It's the legendary perfect life. Only cultivators at the perfect life level can merge their soul power into every trace of divine power. Even if their soul is completely destroyed, as long as there is sufficient divine power, it can be instantly repaired. This principle's master is actually a cultivator at the perfect life level. The soul body was extremely shocked and no longer looked as arrogant as before. Jian Wushuang's soul, which was condensed in front of him again, looked at the soul body coldly. Who are you not good at possessing? How dare you possess me? You're courting death. Jian Wushuang shouted, and instantly, a large amount of soul power crazily counterattacked the soul body. Not good. The soul body suddenly became frightened. In terms of soul power, he was much stronger than Jian Wushuang. They were two completely different levels. In a head-on collision of souls, he could easily crush Jian Wushuang's soul and even destroy it. However, Jian Wushuang was a perfect life. Even if his soul was destroyed, he could immediately recover. This soul could do nothing to Jian Wushuang, but Jian Wushuang could do nothing to him. After all, this place was in Jian Wushuang's divine body, and it was completely under Jian Wushuang's control. Previously, Jian Wushuang did not guard against it, which allowed this soul to enter his divine body so easily. But now, Jian Wushuang was on guard. If he wanted to leave Jian Wushuang's divine body and return to the blood-red gourd, It would not be so easy. A large amount of soul power crazily attacked the soul body. Although each attack was directly destroyed by the soul body and Jian Wushuang's soul was destroyed one after another by the soul body, if there were countless moths flying toward the fire, they would come over again and again. No matter how strong the fire was, it would be extinguished. This was the case for this soul. Jian Wushuang's soul had attacked countless times, and each time it attacked, it consumed a lot of soul power. After dozens of times, the soul power of this soul body was obviously weakened. However, Jian Wushuang's soul was still reassembling and attacking him again and again. A mere soul body wants to possess me? You want to control my divine body? You must be dreaming. Jian Wushuang's voice was cold. Now I want to see how you die. Jian Wushuang was furious. He had thought that the blood-red gourd was a very powerful treasure, so he did not hesitate to give it to the blood-red gourd to devour. He did not expect that after the blood-red gourd devoured the saber, the soul that had awakened, it was the first one to take his body. It was like a farmer saving a snake, only to be bitten by a snake. If he was not a perfect life, he would have been dead by now, and his divine body would be under the control of the soul. How could he not be shocked and angry? That was why Jian Wushuang was so desperate to kill the soul here. This is in my divine body. You can't return to the blood-red gourd because of my obstruction. What you will face next is my crazy attacks, which will weaken your soul power until it is completely exhausted. Jian Wushuang's voice was cold. I don't care who you are, but since you have the guts to enter my divine body, you should stay here. Jian Wushuang's voice sounded in his divine body. He continued to crazily attack the soul body time and time again. No, no. The soul body was terrified at this moment. There are only a few perfect level cultivators in the entire vast universe. How could I be so unlucky to meet a perfect life level cultivator here? Moreover, I want to take his body. This soul body was truly unlucky. He had been sleeping within the blood-red gourd for countless years. It wasn't easy for him to wake up, but before he could feel happy, he immediately seized a perfect level life level cultivator. Seized the possession of a perfect level life level cultivator? That was simply a joke. A perfect level life level cultivator was invincible in the aspect of the soul. My brother, my friend, no, my lord. I have been asleep for too long and finally woke up. I was so excited that I offended you. Please forgive me, my lord. The soul body said anxiously. He had already begged for mercy. He had no choice but to beg for mercy. Under Jian Wushuang's hindrance, his soul body could not return to the blood-red gourd, nor could it leave Jian Wushuang's divine body. If he continued to stay here, the only outcome would be to be tortured to death by Jian Wushuang. It was not easy for him to wake up, but he did not want to be killed the moment he woke up. Now you know how to beg for mercy? Jian Wushuang sneered. What do you mean by saying that you will only be offended in a moment of excitement? Is this just an offense? If I wasn't a cultivator with a perfect life, I would have died long ago. Humph, if you want me to spare your life, you have to hand over your soul origin. Otherwise, you will die. Soul origin? The soul turned pale with fright. The soul origin was the core material of the soul, which could control its life and death. Except for a perfect life like Jian Wushuang, anyone would attach great importance to the soul origin. To hand over the soul origin voluntarily? That was equivalent to leaving their life and death in the other party's control. Therefore, many people would rather die than hand over their soul origin. But now, okay, I'll hand it over. I'll hand over the soul origin. The soul body only hesitated for a moment before agreeing. You agreed so quickly? Jian Wushuang was slightly surprised. He was sure that this soul body must have been an extremely powerful expert, or even a supreme expert. Would such a super expert really hand over the soul origin to him? Jian Wushuang immediately had some doubts. However, the soul body was very decisive. It directly forced his soul origin out of the soul body and sent it to Jian Wushuang. This aura is indeed the soul origin, and it was forced out of the soul body. It should be his soul origin. That's right. Jian Wushuang frowned slightly, but he still controlled this soul origin at once. After controlling it, Jian Wushuang immediately obtained the connection between this soul origin and this soul body. Jian Wushuang had a feeling that he had already controlled the life and death of this soul body. He really gave his soul origin to me? Jian Wushuang was very strange. Master, can I return to the gourd now? The soul body begged. The soul origin was under Jian Wushuang's control. Could be said that his life and death depended on Jian Wushuang's thoughts. The soul body was straightforward enough to address Jian Wushuang as master. Yes, Jian Wushuang did not stop it. Without Jian Wushuang's hindrance, the soul body quickly returned to the blood-red gourd. However, even if he returned to the blood-red gourd, Jian Wushuang still had absolute control over it through the soul origin. Neither the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master nor the Temporal Temple Master knew what had happened in Jian Wushuang's divine body. They only sensed that an extremely powerful soul had entered Jian Wushuang's body from the blood-red gourd, and then Jian Wushuang's soul power dissipated temporarily. This shocked both Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master and Temporal Temple Master. Fortunately, it did not take long for Jian Wushuang's soul power to recover. Finally, Jian Wushuang opened his eyes, and a faint smile appeared on his face. Heavenly Sword Marquis. What happened? Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master asked. Heavenly Marquis. Did something happen? Temporal Temple Master looked over. Don't be nervous. Jian Wushuang waved his hand and said with a smile, something happened just now. Then Jian Wushuang told them about the process of the soul body possession. Good Lord! The soul body in the blood-red gourd wants to take your house? How dare you? Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master said with a hint of anger in his eyes. Temporal Temple Master chuckled. This soul is really unlucky. He could have taken anyone's body, but he chose to take your body. You are at the perfect life level, and your soul origin and divine power are completely fused together. You are absolutely invincible in terms of soul. I'm afraid that even a supreme being at his peak would not be able to take your body. He's really unlucky. Now his soul origin is in my hands, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Soul origin? The eyes of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master and the Temporal Temple Master lit up. My young friend, do you mean that the soul body has given its soul origin to you? The Temporal Temple Master asked. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded. If he doesn't give it to me, I will kill his soul body in my divine body. He has no choice but to give it to me. Haha. That's great. Temporal Temple Master smiled and said, this soul body is so powerful, so it must have a powerful origin. My young friend, please ask quickly. Okay. Jian Wushuang understood and immediately covered the blood-red gourd with his consciousness. Who are you? Jian Wushuang asked in a deep voice. Master, my name is Devil Flame. I come from the netherworld and am a chaos ruler who has reached the ultimate level. The soul body in the gourd said respectfully. Devil Flame. Jian Wushuang's expression changed. He remembered that Pupil had summoned the Devil Flame body with the blood-red gourd. The Devil Flame body must have been the work of Devil Flame. He had never heard of the netherworld, so it must not be an astral world in this star field. An ultimate-level chaos ruler? Jian Wushuang frowned slightly. He had thought that the soul was an autarch, but he did not expect it to be just a chaos ruler. However, the chaos ruler he knew was only at the elementary, advanced, and top levels. As for the so-called ultimate level, he did not know about it. What is the ultimate level? Jian Wushuang asked. Master, you don't know about the ultimate level? The Devil Flame soul body was obviously a little surprised. The star field we are in now should be at the edge of the universe. The strongest one here is only at the superior ruler level. There is no ultimate ruler, Jian Wushuang said coldly. Is that so? The Devil Flame soul body understood, but then said seriously, Master, how many principles have the superior rulers in your star field fused? This, Jian Wushuang frowned. He did not know the answer to this question, so he could only ask the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master and Temporal Temple Master. In our star field, as long as you fuse 4 rules, you can become a ruler. As far as I know, most rulers only fuse 4 rules. The superior rulers usually understand 5 rules, but they can't fuse all 5 rules together. As for the superior rulers, I don't know if anyone has fused 5 rules. The heaven-cleaving alliance master said, "My young friend, you've fought with a superior ruler before. Can't you feel it?" Temporal Temple Master asked. "When I fought with Master Qing, I didn't see that she had fused 5 rules into her attack. I think she hasn't reached this level. As for Master Heaven Rock, although he fought with me, he didn't use his full strength at that time. I don't know whether he has reached it or not." Jian Wushuang shook his head. "Devil Flame, is it true that only a ruler who combines 5 rules is the ultimate ruler?" Jian Wushuang asked. No, Master, you've misunderstood. A ruler who has fused 5 principles is only a second-level chaos ruler. He is far from the ultimate level," Devil Flame said. "Far from it." Jian Wushuang was stunned. "Devil Flame, explain clearly." "Master, it's like this. In the vast universe, the level of chaos ruler is mostly determined by the number of rules fused. The most ordinary ruler is a ruler who has fused 4 rules. In the universe, such rulers are called the first-level rulers. Rulers at this level are the most mediocre and ordinary rulers in the vast universe. Any third-grade astral world can produce many rulers like them, but from the second grade onwards, it is not that simple." The Devil Flame Soul Body began to explain. "Master, you should also be clear that although the laws of heaven and earth are far from the principles of the universe, under the premise that the laws of the universe and the chaos rulers are unable to touch upon the principles of the universe, the degree of comprehension and mastery of the principles of heaven and earth is still very important. Furthermore, although it is relatively easy to comprehend the principles of heaven and earth, it is not difficult to completely comprehend a single principle. Especially after breaking through to the ruler level, one's sense of the principles of the world will become even stronger, and the speed of comprehension will be much easier than when one is at the ruler level. However, the fusion between the principles is still extremely difficult. After all, the principles have their own characteristics. Just fusing 2 laws together is very difficult, but fusing 3, 4, or even more laws together is 10 times and 10 times more difficult. Many people struggle to fuse 4 laws together and break through to become rulers, but this is already their limit. They will never be able to fuse a 5th principle in their entire lives. Thus, they will always be rulers of the first level. In the vast universe, there are the most first-level rulers. 99 of the 100 rulers are only first-level rulers. The second-level rulers have fused 5 principles, so there are fewer of them. Of course, even the second-level rulers are still far inferior to the final-level rulers because many of the rulers who can be called final-level rulers have fused 9 principles. The Devil Flame Soul Body paused. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang was a little confused. "Devil Flame, did you just say that an ultimate ruler has fused 9 rules?" Jian Wushuang was shocked. It was indeed very difficult to fuse principles. He knew this very well. After all, he had only fused 4 principles. He was still far from fusing the 4th principle and reaching the threshold of becoming a ruler. But fusing 9 principles was too far away for him. What shocked Jian Wushuang was that the principles could fuse 9 principles. 9 is in the heaven and earth realm. No matter who it is, the limit is to fuse 9 principles. That's why it's called the ultimate. As for those who fuse more than 6 principles, for example, rulers who fuse 6 principles are called third-level rulers in the universe. Those who fuse 7 principles are the rulers of the 4th level. Those who fuse 8 principles are the rulers of the 5th level. In the vast universe, the rulers of the 5th level are already considered top-tier experts. They can easily occupy a second-level astral world or even a smaller star field. As for the ultimate rulers, as long as they don't go to the deepest part of the universe, the most prosperous place with the most experts, they can easily become an overlord. For example, I used to be an overlord in a certain region of the universe for a period of time. I ruled 5 star fields under my command. Later on, because I was too bored, I went to the deepest part of the universe, which was the most prosperous place to explore. I accidentally provoked a strong enemy, and his divine body was destroyed by the enemy. Only my soul was lucky enough to escape. In the end, by chance, I entered the gourd and fell into a deep sleep. Jian Wushuang could not help smacking his lips. He had heard that Devil Flame said he was an ultimate ruler, but he did not think much of it. After all, he had come into contact with an autarch before. However, he did not expect that an ultimate ruler would be so powerful. He could easily rule several star fields and become an overlord. Devil Flame, you said that you have provoked a strong enemy. That strong enemy should be an autarch, right? Jian Wushuang asked. No, not a supreme being. Devil Flame shook his head. What kind of person is a supreme being? Even in the deepest part of the universe, he is still a top-tier existence. I don't have the courage to provoke a super expert of that level. Moreover, if I really provoked a supreme being, how could my soul have a chance to escape? Not a supreme being? Could it be that the one who destroyed your divine body was also a ruler of the ultimate realm? Jian Wushuang asked. Yes. Devil Flame nodded. But he was also an ultimate ruler, but he was much stronger than me. In fact, he was on a completely different level. Why? Jian Wushuang was confused. They were both ultimate rulers, so why did Devil Flame say that they were on a different level? Not only did he integrate the 9 principles, but more importantly, he also comprehended a trace of the universe principles. Devil Flame's voice was a little cold. The universe principles is something that only supreme experts are qualified to be involved in. However, that guy has actually comprehended a trace of it. Even though it's just a trace, his strength has reached a whole new level. He can be said to be a half-step supreme expert. When I fought with him, I was completely crushed by him. I didn't even have a chance to fight back. If I didn't react fast enough, my soul might not have been able to escape from his hands. Is that so? Jian Wushuang understood. He knew how terrifying the universe principles were. And just as he had expected, even a ruler had the opportunity to comprehend the universe principles. It was just a matter of whether he had the talent and comprehension ability. Devil Flame, let me ask you again. What is this blood-red gourd? Jian Wushuang asked. This gourd is actually not a treasure, but its material is very special. It can shield the soul of an ordinary ruler from detection. At that time, my divine body was destroyed, and even my soul was severely damaged. I was at a loss when I saw this gourd, so I immediately ran into it and used it to hide my soul aura. Not long after that, I fell into a deep sleep. As for what happened after that, I don't know. I also don't know how I came to this star field, said Devil Flame. Where are the special crystals? And what happened to your soul awakening? Jian Wushuang asked again. It has something to do with my origin. Devil Flame did not hide anything. Have you heard of the Gold Devouring Clan? Gold Devouring Clan? Jian Wushuang shook his head. Master has not left the star field and has not really explored the universe. It's normal that you don't know, Devil Flame said in a deep voice. The Gold Devouring Clan is one of the rarer races in the vast universe. Most of them were born from birth just like special life forms. However, special life forms are unique, while the Gold Devouring Clan is a race. In the vast universe, the number of Gold Devouring Clan is very few. I've explored for so long, but I've only met 2 of them. The Gold Devouring Clan has an innate talent, which is to have a strong sense of special crystals. We like to eat these special crystals, and we can even improve our strength by eating them. Of course, we can also eat these special crystals to recover our divine power and injuries. As a member of the Gold Devouring Clan, I naturally have a strong sense of these special crystals. My soul was severely injured, and I slept in the gourd for God knows how many years. Not long ago, someone recognized the gourd as its owner and temporarily woke me up. Oh! Jian Wushuang's expression changed. Not long ago? How long ago was that? It must have been tens of millions of years, Devil Flame said. Jian Wushuang rolled his eyes. Tens of millions of years, but Devil Flame said it was only a short time ago. However, it was normal. Devil Flame had slept in the gourd for an unknown period of time. These tens of millions of years might be very short for an ultimate-level ruler like him. Tens of millions of years ago, the gourd should have been in the hands of Pupil Master, Jian Wushuang thought. And then, Jian Wushuang continued to ask. Although that person recognized the gourd as his master, he could not sense my existence from it. Instead, I found an opportunity at this time. Devil Flame continued. You know, my soul was severely injured. If I were to recover by sleeping, I don't know how long it would take to recover. But if I had external help, it would be much faster. Therefore, I caused some movement in the gourd and showed my desire for the special crystals. I made the man think that the gourd was a great treasure and immediately sent a lot of special crystals into the gourd. The speed of my soul recovery was much faster than before. In the end, I simply used my innate ability to sense the special crystals and asked the man to find all kinds of special crystals for me to swallow. Of course, in order to make him believe that the gourd was really a treasure, I also brought him some benefits. Is it the Devil Flame body? Jian Wushuang asked. Yes, Devil Flame nodded. The Devil Flame body is just a name I lied to him about. In fact, it's a gold-devouring divine body that I rebuilt. Of course, a gold-devouring divine body that is exactly the same as when I was at my peak cannot be created overnight. I can only wait and my soul will continue to sleep. The Devil Flame body can also sense the special crystals and let that person continue to search for all kinds of crystals for me. When he is in danger, of course, he can summon the Devil Flame body, which can greatly increase his strength in a short time. Originally, my goal was to use the special crystals he found to completely restore my soul. As soon as I restore it, I can immediately possess him and control his divine body. Then, I can personally plunder all kinds of crystals so that I can reduce the time to create the gold-devouring divine body. Everything has been in my plan until now, and the next thing. Devil Flame paused. Jian Wushuang naturally knew what happened next. He killed Pupil Master, and the gourd fell into his hands. Like Pupil Master, he thought the gourd was a supreme treasure, so he gave all kinds of special crystals to the gourd to eat. In the end, he even sent the saber disc into the gourd. He did not expect that the knife disc would directly wake up the Devil Flame's soul and restore it. The Devil Flame, whose soul had been completely restored, naturally wanted to possess Jian Wushuang at once. However, he did not expect that Jian Wushuang was a cultivator at the perfect life level. He failed to steal the chicken, but instead he lost himself. Devil Flame, you said that the knife disc I devoured for you was Blood Blaze Iron. What is this Blood Blaze Iron? Jian Wushuang asked again. He really wanted to know the value of the blade plate. After all, the blade plate was extraordinary. Devil Flame's soul was severely injured and it would take a long time to recover. However, after swallowing the blade plate, it immediately recovered. Blood Blaze Iron is one of the rarest and most precious special crystals in the vast universe. Crystals of this level are very valuable. Master, although the blade plate you gave me contains only a part of Blood Blaze Iron, which is estimated to be about 10 kilograms, the value of 10 kilograms of Blood Blaze Iron is enough to tempt even supreme beings. Even when I was at my peak, it was almost impossible for me to get such a big piece of Blood Blaze Iron. I didn't expect you to have it in such a star field, Master. Devil Flame was in disbelief. Hearing Devil Flame's words, Jian Wushuang was furious. It's a pity that such a precious piece of Blood Blaze Iron was swallowed by you. I lost a piece of Blood Blaze Iron, and not only did I not get anything, but I was almost possessed by you. This Devil Flame was nervous, but then he said, Master, although you lost a piece of Blood Flame Iron, you got me as your slave. I am from the Gold-Devouring clan, and I have a strong sense of all kinds of special crystals in the universe. The higher the level of the crystals, the more sensitive my sense is. In the future, with me by your side, what special crystals can you not get? Also, no matter what, when I was alive, I was still a ruler at the ultimate level. I've even roamed the deepest part of the universe. At least I have some knowledge. Master, you're a perfect life form. In the future, you won't be limited to the star area. You'll definitely go to the vast universe to explore. At that time, Master will definitely need my knowledge and experience. In addition, there's also the gold-devouring divine body inside the gourd. Although that divine body is still in the reconstruction stage, It should be of some use to you, Master. There were 3 benefits. The first was the gold-devouring clan's innate ability to sense special crystals. The second was the knowledge and experience of Devil Flame, the ultimate ruler. The third was the gold-devouring divine body. The first 2 benefits were of no use to Jian Wushuang at the moment. After all, he was still in the star field and did not need much knowledge and experience. As for the innate sensing ability of the pair of special gems, he did not need any special gems at the moment. For example, the saber that he had previously obtained contained the Scarlet Blaze iron, but it was useless in his hands. That was why he had devoured it by the Devil Flame. On the contrary, the third benefit mentioned by the Devil Flame caught Jian Wushuang's attention. Gold-devouring divine body? Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes. He had witnessed the scene when Pupil Master summoned the gold-devouring divine body from the blood-red gourd. Pupil Master's battle strength was only that of a primary ruler. However, after summoning the gold-devouring divine body, his battle strength could rival that of a senior ruler. He was even considered very strong among senior rulers, especially his divine body, which could be many times stronger. Of course, Jian Wushuang was interested in such an ability. Of course, Pupil Master's strength was much weaker than his, which was why his strength had increased so much after summoning the gold-devouring divine body. Jian Wushuang himself was the strongest among the senior rulers, so even with the help of the gold-devouring divine body, his strength would not increase too much, but it would increase a lot more or less. It might even give him the ability to fight with a superior ruler. Devil Flame. What are the conditions for summoning the gold-devouring divine body? Jian Wushuang asked. This? Devil Flame hesitated for a moment. Then he said, Master, the gold-devouring divine body is still in the stage of remodeling and has just begun to be molded. It is not perfect enough. Although Master can summon it to enhance his own strength, the power consumed after each summoning is enormous. It requires a large number of special crystals to restore the gold-devouring divine body to the unsummoned stage. Is that so? Jian Wushuang's eyes narrowed. Of course, Master. Unless it's a critical moment, you shouldn't summon the gold-devouring divine body. If you have the chance, you can get as many special crystals as you can for me to eat. In this way, my reconstructed gold-devouring divine body will become more and more powerful. After I summon it, it will enhance your strength, Devil Flame added. I understand. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. He understood the use of the gold-devouring divine body. It was a divine body reconstructed by the Devil Flame. However, due to the special relationship of the gold-devouring clan, the gold-devouring divine body could enhance his strength like a supreme treasure. However, every time he used it, he would need to spend a large number of special crystals to replenish it. If he did not use the gold-devouring divine body and often gave a large number of special gems to the Devil Flame to devour, the gold-devouring divine body would become stronger and more useful to him. Of course, this was only what the Devil Flame said. As for the truth, Jian Wushuang did not fully believe it. This gold-devouring divine body is a full-faith divine body prepared by the Devil Flame for himself. It can withstand his cultivation and strength at his peak. If I really give him all kinds of special gems at all costs and let him completely reconstruct the gold-devouring divine body, he will be able to recover 80% of his strength at his peak after he completely controls the gold-devouring divine body. Jian Wushuang muttered to himself. How strong was a master at the peak of the Devil Flame? He was an ultimate ruler, second only to a supreme being and a heaven-defying master who had comprehended a trace of the universe's principles. If such a super expert recovered his peak strength, Jian Wushuang was not confident that he could completely control him. Even though the sole origin of the Devil Flame was in his hands, and it was respectful to him, as if it had completely submitted to him, Jian Wushuang was still very vigilant about the Devil Flame. After all, a ruler at the ultimate level who had traveled in the deepest part of the universe, who knew if he had any special means to escape from his control. If he did not have it, it would be fine, but if he really did have it, then he would be digging a hole for himself by painstakingly collecting all kinds of special crystals for him to recover his peak strength. Once the Devil Flame recovered its peak strength and got out of his control, the Devil Flame would immediately kill him. Jian Wushuang had to be vigilant. As he expected, the devil flame was respectful on the surface and called Jian Wushuang master affectionately. It did not dare to go against Jian Wushuang's question, but it was forced by the situation. He had no choice. In order to survive, he had to bow down to Jian Wushuang. However, it did not mean that he was willing to submit to Jian Wushuang. After all, how could a ruler of the ultimate level sincerely submit to an ant at the level of a principal's master? Even if this principal's master was the legendary perfect life. I have no choice but to support you now, but you must not let me find an opportunity or else. Devil Flame was already making all kinds of plans in his heart. He was already thinking about how to find an opportunity to kill Jian Wushuang and then get rid of Jian Wushuang's control. After all, his soul origin was in Jian Wushuang's hands. If Jian Wushuang was slightly unhappy, he could kill him. He was not willing to let Jian Wushuang completely control his life and death. But he had no way at the moment. His current plan was very clear. He would wait for Jian Wushuang to die. He knew very well that with Jian Wushuang's strength, it might be difficult for him to die in the star field, but sooner or later, he would have to go to other star fields or the depths of the universe. Once he went to a wider star field, there would be many experts there, so there would be many dangers. Even though Jian Wushuang was a perfect life, he would still die if he was not careful. As long as Jian Wushuang died, he would be able to escape from Jian Wushuang's control. Of course, before he died, Jian Wushuang might still choose to kill his soul and let him die with him, but he was not worried at all. Humph, he is just a principal's master. His understanding of the soul is rough. Even if I give him control of my soul origin, it won't be easy for him to kill me with this trace of soul origin. Moreover, there are so many dangers in the universe. Many dangers are fleeting. He might die in an instant. He won't even have a chance to react. How can he deal with me? Devil Flame thought clearly in his heart. However, he was still powerless in the face of Jian Wushuang. He could only be obedient to Jian Wushuang. Devil Flame hated Jian Wushuang, but now he didn't dare to disobey him, so he could only bow and scrape. Jian Wushuang was also very vigilant about Devil Flame. The reason why he did not kill it directly was because he really needed it now. Both of them had their own thoughts. Devil Flame, you stay in the gourd from now on. If I need you, you must respond immediately. If you dare to slight me, I will kill you directly, Jian Wushuang said coldly. Yes, yes. Devil Flame was very terrified. Of course, if possible, I will get you some more special crystals in the future, Jian Wushuang said. Thank you, Master. Devil Flame was delighted again. Jian Wushuang nodded, then waved his hand and put the blood-red gourd into his interspatial ring. After dealing with the matter of the blood-red gourd, Jian Wushuang flipped his hand and took out the Pupil Master's supreme treasure armor. The armor was pitch black and gave off a faint light. The surface of the armor was smooth, but there was a bit of malevolence. A faint murderous aura slowly spread out from the armor. It was obvious that the armor was a malevolence. With my strength, it shouldn't be difficult for me to refine this supreme treasure armor. Jian Wushuang closed his eyes and began to try to refine the supreme treasure armor. As he had expected, although the threshold for refining the supreme treasure armor was very high, ordinary rulers might not be able to achieve it. However, Jian Wushuang's strength was still there, so it was easy for him to get the recognition of the most powerful supreme treasure armor. In just 3 days, Jian Wushuang had refined the most powerful supreme treasure armor. At the same time, he immediately got the specific information of the supreme treasure armor. Dark gold magic dragon armor? Jian Wushuang's expression changed. Dark gold magic dragon armor was the name of the most powerful supreme treasure armor. The name looked ordinary, but its origin was extraordinary. The dark gold magic dragon armor was made by a master craftsman after he killed a magic dragon at the ruler level with dragon bones in its leather belt. The master craftsman even completely sealed the magic dragon soul on the armor. Over the years, the magic dragon soul had suffered a lot, and its resentment was growing. As a result, the armor became more and more ferocious, and its power was naturally stronger. With a thought, Jian Wushuang immediately replaced the Blood Demon Cave armor with the dark gold magic dragon armor. It turned into an ordinary black robe and covered his body. Then Jian Wushuang began to feel the power of the dark gold magic dragon armor. The dark gold magic dragon armor, as the most powerful supreme treasure armor, is indeed much stronger than the blood demon cave armor. Jian Wushuang sighed secretly. The difference between supreme true treasure armor and pinnacle true treasure armor seemed to be only one level, but this level was like a huge gap between heaven and earth. A pinnacle true treasure armor could withstand most of the power of an ordinary attack from a primary ruler, but if the opponent's strength reached the advanced ruler level or even the peak ruler level, the top-tier true treasure armor would not be able to withstand it, and its power would be limited in the end. However, the supreme true treasure armor was different. Even a top-tier true treasure armor could withstand more than 90% of the power of an attack by a top-tier ruler, while a top-tier true treasure armor could even withstand 99% of the power. Only 1% of the power could hit its master. Therefore, even though Pupil Master's strength was average, it still took a long time for Jian Wushuang to kill him. He had also revealed so many tricks and trump cards. Pupil Master was the same. Now that the dark gold magic dragon armor had fallen into Jian Wushuang's hands, his body protection ability was much stronger than Pupil Master's. His divine body was far beyond Pupil Master's, not to mention the protective swordsmanship of Earth Guard. Now that he had the protection of the supreme treasure armor, Jian Wushuang could definitely do whatever he wanted in this star field. No one in this star field could threaten him anymore. Even if his opponent was a superior ruler, even if 2 or 3 superior rulers joined hands, they could not do anything to him. Of course, if he were to leave the star field, Jian Wushuang would not be able to deal with experts like the Devil Cloud Star Master. After all, the superior ruler of this star field was probably only a first-level ruler according to Devil Flame. At most, he could barely reach the second level, while the Devil Cloud Star Master could occupy a second-level star world. His strength was certainly not weak. According to Jian Wushuang's guess, Devil Cloud Star Master was probably a third-level or even fourth-level ruler. A ruler of that level was nothing in the vast universe, but it was an existence that Jian Wushuang and even this star field could not afford to provoke. In addition to its own protective ability, the dark gold magic dragon armor also had its own power. Almost all of the power of the armor came from the magic dragon sealed in the armor. As long as it met the requirements, it could activate the magic dragon power in the armor. With the power of the magic dragon, its strength could be enhanced to a higher level. After Jian Wushuang recognized the armor as his master, he knew that there were 4 levels of power in the armor. The first level of power could trigger 10% of the magic dragon soul. The conditions were simple and most rulers could achieve it. The second level of power could trigger 30% of the magic dragon soul. It could only be triggered by grasping a trace of the aura of the universe principles. The third level of power, 60% of the magic dragon soul, needed to comprehend a trace of the universe principles. The fourth level of power, 100% of the magic dragon soul, naturally required a higher requirement. Pupil Master's own strength is not very strong. Although he has the dark gold magic dragon armor, he can only activate the first level of power at most. Activating 10% magic dragon soul will probably be very limited to his own strength. As for me, although I am only a principles master, I have long grasped a trace of the aura of the universe principles. I can barely activate the second level of power of the dark gold magic dragon armor. Jian Wushuang's eyes immediately lit up. Let's try it. With a thought, the second level of the power of the dark gold magic dragon armor was immediately activated. Suddenly, a dragon's cry sounded in the sky. The dragon's cry was accompanied by a monstrous resentment. Immediately, a majestic murderous aura surged out from the dark gold magic dragon armor and directly covered Jian Wushuang's entire body. The moment this murderous aura covered his entire body, Jian Wushuang clearly sensed the change in his own strength. My power seems to have increased a lot? Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows and suddenly exerted strength with his hands. Crack! He almost crushed the space. This power is a little too strong. Jian Wushuang was a little excited, and his eyes were full of surprise and joy. He had thought that activating the second level of the dark gold magic dragon armor would not increase his strength too much. After all, it was only 30% of the magic dragon power. But in fact, the 30% magic dragon power was too strong for him. He did not use any secret skills or techniques, but the power burst out in an instant. Jian Wushuang felt that he was still slightly stronger than an ordinary senior ruler and was almost close to his peak power. After all, he did not use his life divine power, heaven-cleaving skill, or the power of his will given by the universe principles. The power was so strong without using these things. If he used all his strength, the power would not be weaker than an ordinary superior ruler. With 30% of the magic dragon power from the dark gold magic dragon armor, my power should not be much weaker than that of a superior ruler. In terms of swordsmanship and comprehension of the universe origin of sword principle, I am definitely no weaker than a superior ruler. In addition, I have the support of the most powerful flight-type true treasure, such as the celestial light wings. With the help of the mystic light phantom movement technique and the suppression of the domain. Now, I really want to find a genuine superior ruler to spar with. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands. He had fought with a superior ruler before, but this so-called fight was just to save his life. A superior ruler could not kill him, but he could easily crush him. Jian Wushuang was very clear about this. However, now that he had the dark gold magic dragon armor, which gave him power comparable to a superior ruler, he looked forward to a real fight with a superior ruler. He was absolutely confident that if he encountered a superior ruler again, he would definitely be qualified to fight him head-on. If he used his innate divine power, the original universe, he could even suppress an ordinary superior ruler within 10 breaths. Heavenly Sword Marquis. How powerful is the armor? Heaven-cleaving Alliance Master and Temporal Temple Master looked at him. Very good. Jian Wushuang stood up with a smile on his face. With this supreme true treasure armor, not only will my protective ability reach a new level, but my strength will also increase by a level. Oh! Heaven-cleaving Alliance Master and Temporal Temple Master looked at each other. In their eyes, Jian Wushuang's strength was already strong before, but now it had increased by another level? Could it be that he could fight against a superior ruler? With this supreme true treasure armor, we have achieved our purpose in coming to the Red Cloud world, and you have also obtained a supreme flight-type true treasure. This can be said to be a great surprise. As for the following, although the Red Cloud world will still be closed for thousands of years, it doesn't matter if we can get another treasure in the remaining thousands of years, Temporal Temple Master said. Okay. Jian Wushuang nodded. He now had not only a supreme attack-type true treasure, but also a supreme true treasure armor, a supreme flight-type true treasure, and a supreme suppression-type true treasure. He basically had a supreme true treasure in all aspects. The only thing he lacked was a supreme domain-type true treasure. However, he had a pinnacle domain-type true treasure, and with the combination of the two, his domain power was close to that of a supreme domain-type true treasure. Just as Temporal Temple Master had said, his gains in Red Cloud World over the years had been huge, and they had long exceeded his expectations. As for whether he could obtain other true treasures, there was no need to force it. Heavenly Sword Marquis, what are your plans next? Asked the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master. My strength has improved a lot since I got the dark gold magic dragon armor. Now, I really want to fight with top-tier rulers. Almost all the top-tier rulers in the star field are in the Red Cloud world, so I plan to continue adventuring here. I don't want to obtain true treasures, but only to hone my swordsmanship and fight with those top-tier rulers, Jian Wushuang said. Okay. With your current strength, you can survive a supreme ruler even if you can't defeat him. Heaven-cleaving and I won't stop you. You can continue to roam around here, Temporal Temple Master said. Okay. Jian Wushuang nodded. By the way, don't forget the legend of the Red Cloud world, which is Heaven-Treading Mountain. Temporal Temple Master reminded him again. If possible, go to Heaven-Treading Mountain earlier. With your talent and strength, you might have a chance to pass it. I remember, Jian Wushuang replied. Of course, Jian Wushuang would not forget the Heaven-Treading Mountain. He still wanted to explore the Red Cloud world for a while. It would be best if he could fight with one or two superior rulers. After that, he would go to the Heaven-Treading Mountain. Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master and Temporal Temple Master left. Jian Wushuang continued to explore the Red Cloud world. However, he no longer had any thoughts about the supreme treasures in the Red Cloud world. His goal was to fight with the top rulers, so there was no need for him to stay on the third continent. Instead, he went to the continents where there were top rulers and began to explore. More than 5,000 years after the Red Cloud world opened, Jian Wushuang, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master, and Temporal Temple Master jointly killed Pupil Master. The battle shocked the entire Red Cloud world. 400 years later, on the second continent, Jian Wushuang encountered an extremely powerful advanced ruler, Master Icefox, in a fight for a supreme treasure. Master Icefox was a very famous advanced ruler. His battle strength was definitely among the best among the advanced rulers, and he was slightly stronger than the Tyrant Axe ruler. After the encounter, Jian Wushuang directly challenged Master Icefox. The two fought, but the battle only lasted for a short while before Master Icefox admitted defeat and admitted that he was no match for Jian Wushuang. In the 6,600th year since the Red Cloud world opened, Jian Wushuang met Doom Ruler again. Doom Ruler was an overlord of this star field. Although his battle strength was not as strong as a superior ruler, he was one of the few people in this star field who dared to challenge a superior ruler. His attack power was extremely powerful and far exceeded that of an ordinary superior ruler. He was also very good at speed and body protection. He also had many secret skills and no weaknesses. Because of this, many people in the star field thought that the Doom Ruler was the number one person under a superior ruler. However, after fighting Jian Wushuang, the title of the number one person under a superior ruler was immediately changed. The battle was extremely fierce. At first, Jian Wushuang only used his life divine power, heaven-cleaving skill, and the power of the will given by the universal principles. With the advantage of his domain, he fought fiercely with the Doom Ruler. It was only a tie, but with Jian Wushuang's Mystic Light Phantom Movement. The Mystic Light Phantom Movement technique was too terrifying. Once it was used, even the Doom Ruler could not keep up with Jian Wushuang's speed. He was easily suppressed by Jian Wushuang. What followed was a complete one-sided suppression. The Doom Ruler could not even find a chance to fight back. Therefore, the ruler admitted defeat after a short while. From then on, the number one person under the superior ruler became Jian Wushuang. In the 7,500th year since the Red Cloud world opened, Jian Wushuang finally met a superior ruler on the first continent. This superior ruler was Master Kong. He was a superior ruler with monstrous fame and terrifying strength. Sky Master also had a great force under his command. This force was no weaker than the Northern Sea Palace led by Sky Rock ruler. It was even slightly stronger than the Northern Sea Palace to a certain extent. Moreover, Sky Master was decisive in his killing. He rose up in the midst of a bloody storm and stepped on countless corpses. He might not be stronger than Sky Rock ruler in terms of strength, but there was no doubt that he was more awe-inspiring or feared than Sky Rock ruler. Jian Wushuang had heard that Sky Master was adventuring on the first continent, so he had rushed there. When he encountered Sky Master, he was overjoyed and immediately went up to challenge him. As a superior ruler, Sky Master was proud of his status and would not trouble the weak. However, if anyone dared to provoke him, he would kill them without mercy. Therefore, when he saw that Jian Wushuang had taken the initiative to challenge him, he did not hesitate to attack. The battle was extremely dark, and many people were watching. The final result of the battle shocked everyone. Before the battle between Jian Wushuang and Space Master, almost everyone thought that the battle was one-sided. After all, Space Master was a superior ruler and had been famous for a long time. As for Jian Wushuang, although he had extraordinary combat strength and was known as the number one person under a superior ruler, he was only a principal's master. In many people's eyes, no matter how powerful a principal's master was, there must be a limit, right? It was already incredible that he could defeat a superior ruler. As for fighting against a superior ruler, almost no one thought so. In fact, in this battle, Jian Wushuang used all of his strength and secret skills at the same time. He also activated 30% of the magic dragon power in the dark gold magic dragon armor, which instantly increased his power to the level of a superior ruler. His swordsmanship was also extremely powerful. With the help of the Mystic Light Phantom Movement technique, he was not at a disadvantage in a short time. Of course, Sky Master was still strong. After fighting Jian Wushuang for a while, he finally used his full strength and secret skill to suppress Jian Wushuang. But he was only barely able to suppress Jian Wushuang. Sky Master also realized that he could not defeat Jian Wushuang directly. In the end, after fighting for nearly an hour, they finally stopped. After the battle ended, Sky Master announced to the public that Jian Wushuang already had the battle strength of a superior ruler. Once the news was spread, the entire Red Cloud world was in an uproar. After all, Jian Wushuang was only a principal's master? This was confirmed by several superior rulers. Even the superior rulers agreed that Jian Wushuang was only a principal's master, so he naturally could not hide his cultivation with secret skills. It was indeed shocking that a principal's master had the battle strength of a superior ruler. In the vast void above the first continent, Jian Wushuang was slowly moving forward. At the same time, he was chatting with the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master, Temporal Temple Master, and Taoist Shen God. My young friend, you don't know that the entire Red Cloud world and even the entire star field have been completely shocked. Although I'm in the Star Palace, many rulers have sent me messages to build a good relationship with me. In particular, the leaders and rulers of some forces in this star field have congratulated me and also come to build a good relationship with my Star Palace. To be honest, my Star Palace has existed in this star field for quite some time now. It has a certain status within this star field, but amongst the many powers of this star field, it can only be considered average. But now, it's completely different. Taoist Shen God laughed loudly. Haha, this is very normal. Although there are a few rulers in the star field, there are only 4 or 5 supreme rulers. At most, there are 6 or 7. Any supreme ruler can do whatever they want within this star field, and no one dares to offend them. Previously, my Star Palace relied on us to hold down the fort. At that time, I, Heaven Cleaving, and the Heaven Ancestor had yet to publicly declare our stance. Can be said that you, Shen God, are the only ruler in the star field. Naturally, not many people or powers would take you seriously. However, now that we've made our stance clear, the Star Palace has suddenly gained a few more rulers. More importantly, our heavenly marquee friend is now publicly acknowledged as having the battle prowess of a peak ruler. With a peak ruler in the Star Palace, who would dare to underestimate it? The Temporal Palace Master laughed loudly. That's right. A peak ruler is different from ordinary elementary rulers and advanced rulers. This is the strongest battle prowess in this star field. With such a battle prowess, no one in the star field would dare to provoke the Star Palace. If we have a bit of ambition, we can easily become a peak ruler in the star field, just like the Northern Sea Palace. The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master added. The North Sea Palace was one of the overlords of this star field. It was led by the superior ruler, the Sky Rock ruler, and had 2 rulers under its command. Moreover, the North Sea Palace had a very deep foundation. However, the current Star Palace had more rulers than the North Sea Palace. Jian Wushuang was also in charge of the battle strength of the superior rulers. They were not weaker than the North Sea Palace at all. What they lacked was the foundation and the battle strength of the principal's master level. However, the foundation could be plundered. For example, they could destroy some other forces and plunder resources. The principal's master was even easier to deal with. After Jian Wushuang's fame spread, many experts would be eager to join the Star Palace. As long as the Star Palace was willing, they could easily gather a large group of principal's master experts. Hearing their conversation, Jian Wushuang only smiled faintly. Although the entire star field was saying that he was the most terrifying monster in the history of the star field and that he had the battle strength of a superior ruler at the level of a principal's master, in fact, Jian Wushuang knew very well that his master, Xianxia, had, at the level of a principal's master, he also had the battle strength of a superior ruler. However, not long after Xianxia had that battle strength, he died and did not have the time to show his strength in the star field, therefore not many people knew about this matter. In other words, he was not the #1 genius in the history of this star field. At the very least, his master was ahead of him. Of course, the reason why his master, Xianxia, was able to fight against a superior ruler at the level of a principal's master was mainly because of the Heaven Suppression Tablet, in addition to his perfect life. Xianxia had reached the level of a superior ruler in the first place because he had mastered the Heaven Suppression Tablet. Although Jian Wushuang had also borrowed the power of a supreme treasure, his own strength was still a big factor. Therefore, although he could not be said to be better than his master, he was at least on par with his master. I've had a good fight with a superior ruler. There's no need for me to continue exploring the Red Cloud world. It's time for me to go to the 7th continent and visit Heaven-Treading Mountain, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Heavenly Sword Marquis, are you going to Heaven-Treading Mountain? Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master asked. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded. Okay. Then I wish you good luck, Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master said. Haha. I hope you can be the first person to pass the Heaven-Treading Mountain in the star field, Temporal Temple Master said with a smile. They were all very relaxed. The Heaven-Treading Mountain was a legend in the Red Cloud world. So far, no one had been able to pass the trial on the Heaven-Treading Mountain. However, although the trial on the Heaven-Treading Mountain was extremely difficult, there was no danger to their lives. Even if they could not pass it, they would be able to escape unscathed. Naturally, they would not be worried. Jian Wushuang smiled and quickly flew toward the 7th continent where Heaven-Treading Mountain was located. The 7 continents of the Red Cloud world, from the 1st continent to the 6th continent, were scattered in all directions. Only the 7th continent was located in the center of the other continents. Heaven-Treading Mountain was located in the center of the 7th continent. Jian Wushuang arrived at the 7th continent in no time. There were still many cultivators fighting for the supreme treasures on the 7th continent. However, Jian Wushuang was no longer interested in the supreme treasures. He did not move fast along the way and headed straight for Heaven-Treading Mountain in the center of the 7th continent. On the way, he naturally encountered quite a few cultivators. That outfit and that look, it's Blood Sword Master. It's him. Wasn't he on the 1st continent before? And he just fought with that Space Master not long ago. Why is he on the 7th continent now? The 7th continent is at the center of the other continents. There were already many great beings adventuring here, and now there's Blood Sword Master, who has the combat power of a top-tier ruler. It'll be even harder for us to get a true treasure. No, Blood Sword Master has been fighting for true treasures on the 3rd continent for the first 5,000 years. He has been wandering around the other continents to challenge rulers, but he has not participated in the true treasures. Obviously, he is no longer interested in the true treasures from the Red Cloud world. Now that he has come to the 7th continent, he is either here to challenge great beings, or he is here for Heaven-Treading Mountain. Heaven-Treading Mountain? Many cultivators on the 7th continent were shocked. Although they were all on the 7th continent and knew about the existence of Heaven-Treading Mountain, the test was too difficult. They had no chance at all, therefore. They had always regarded Heaven-Treading Mountain as an insurmountable mountain in their hearts. Now that Jian Wushuang had deliberately rushed to the 7th continent, it was obvious that he was heading toward Heaven-Treading Mountain. It seems that Blood Sword Master is really going to Heaven-Treading Mountain. Tut, tut, Heaven-Treading Mountain is a legend. Although the Red Cloud world has existed for so many years, it has been born many times, and countless experts have gone there to challenge it. No one has been able to reach the peak. Although Blood Sword Master is very heaven-defying, I'm afraid he still can't pass it. It's hard to say. Blood Sword Master has the battle strength of a superior ruler at the level of a Principal's Master. He has a good chance of passing it. Maybe he really did pass it. Many cultivators on the 7th continent began to discuss. Heaven-Treading Mountain was an insurmountable mountain for many people. They did not see any hope of passing it. However, Jian Wushuang was the #1 genius in the history of this star field. He had the battle strength of a superior ruler at the level of a Principal's Master. Such a heaven-defying feat gave them a glimmer of hope. Perhaps Jian Wushuang could really pass through it? Jian Wushuang did not care about the thoughts of these cultivators. He continued forward and soon arrived at the center of the 7th continent, in front of Heaven-Treading Mountain. In front of him was a towering blood-red mountain, which directly pierced into the red cloud at the top. Standing in front of the blood-red mountain, one could only feel 2 words: insignificant. Even Jian Wushuang could not help being shocked when he came to the foot of the blood-red mountain. This mountain was too towering and its aura was too majestic. Standing at the foot of heaven-treading mountain, even Jian Wushuang could not help but feel a sense of awe. It's said that the peak of heaven-treading mountain is connected to the second heaven and earth of the red cloud world. It's a pity that since the birth of the red cloud world, no one in this star field has been able to step on the peak of heaven-treading mountain, Jian Wushuang thought. From the words of the Shen god and the others, Jian Wushuang had some understanding of heaven-treading mountain. Heaven-treading mountain was the only way to the second heaven of the red cloud world. Anyone who came to heaven-treading mountain, no matter who they were, could not fly up directly. They had to start from the bottom of the peak and go up step by step. Finally, they reached the peak. However, there were 2 trials on the way to the peak. To be exact, there were 2 gatekeepers. Only after passing the trials of these 2 gatekeepers could they go to the peak of heaven-treading mountain. As for whether there was a 3rd test after reaching the top of heaven-treading mountain, the existence of the 3rd gatekeeper, it was unknown. After all, no one had ever reached the top of the peak. Even the strongest experts in this star field could only pass the test at the foot of the mountain. However, when they reached the mountainside, they would be easily defeated by the gatekeeper. Even a superior ruler can only pass the test at the foot of the mountain. However, I'm not a ruler, just a principles master. The test of heaven-treading mountain seems to be related to the cultivation realm of the cultivator. Jian Wushuang thought to himself. If a principles master was like a ruler, then even a superior ruler could not pass the test at the mountainside, so naturally Jian Wushuang could not pass it. However, he was only a principles master, so he had a great advantage in this regard. Let's give it a try. Jian Wushuang took a deep breath and appeared at the foot of heaven-treading mountain in a flash. There was a path that was completely paved with steps leading to the peak. Starting from the first step, Jian Wushuang walked up step by step. His pace was not fast, and he did not encounter any resistance on the steps. He easily walked over 100 steps. However, heaven-treading mountain was too tall. There were at least 10,000 steps leading to the peak. After Jian Wushuang walked over 100 steps, he was still at the foot of heaven-treading mountain. At this time, Jian Wushuang saw a pavilion beside the steps. In the pavilion, a black-clothed man was sitting with his back facing Jian Wushuang. This black-clothed man looked very ordinary, and he did not emit any aura. Even when Jian Wushuang looked up at him, he did not sense any divine power fluctuation from this black-clothed man. However, it was because he could not sense it that Jian Wushuang became vigilant. At this moment, the black-clothed man seemed to have sensed Jian Wushuang's arrival. He turned his body sideways and looked at Jian Wushuang with a pair of pitch-black eyes. It was just a simple glance. However, the moment the black-clothed man looked at Jian Wushuang felt a sudden fear in his heart, as if he had been completely seen through by the other party. His ordinary eyes seemed to have a special magic power, which immediately calmed Jian Wushuang down. Little guy, you must be tired after walking for so long. I have a bowl of coarse tea here. How about coming over for a cup? A calm voice came out of the black-clothed man's mouth. Jian Wushuang saw that there were indeed 2 bowls of tea on the stone table where the black-clothed man was sitting. He nodded slightly and walked over. I brewed this tea with my own hands. Try it. The black-clothed man made an inviting gesture. Jian Wushuang did not hesitate. He picked up the bowl of tea in front of him and drank it in one gulp. When the tea entered his throat, it immediately gave him an extremely bitter taste. Jian Wushuang could not help but click his tongue at this bitter taste. However, after the tea entered his stomach, it felt warm and comfortable. How do you feel? The black-clothed man asked with a smile. Very good, but it's a little bitter, Jian Wushuang said. Haha, only through suffering can one rise to the top. Little guy, since you've already eaten my tea, it means that you and I are fated. For the sake of our fated fate, I advise you to go back to where you came from. It's not easy to enter the heaven-treading mountain, the black-clothed man said. I haven't really started. How would you know that I can't pass it? Jian Wushuang asked with interest. Haha, the red cloud world has existed in your star field for so many years. Over the years, How many people have come to heaven-treading mountain to pass it? Not to mention a principal's master like you, even a ruler. There are probably more than 100 people who have come and gone. However, only a few of these rulers were able to pass my level. Even if these rulers were lucky enough to pass my guarding level, they will still be easily defeated when they reach the mountainside. Even the masters who have reached the top of the first level, or at least the second level, will be easily defeated by the one on the mountainside. You are just a principal's master, so why bother? The black-clothed man said. Hearing the black-clothed man's words, Jian Wushuang's pupils shrank. He did not doubt the truth of the black-clothed man's words. The Red Cloud world had been in the star field for a very long time. During this period, this star field had produced many rulers. At the same time, many rulers had already left the star field to explore more vast star fields. It was normal that more than 100 rulers had come to heaven-treading mountain to pass this test. There must be some superior rulers among the hundreds of rulers. However, according to the black-clothed man, ordinary superior rulers would not be able to pass this test. Even if they were lucky enough to pass, when they reached the mountainside, they would be easily defeated by the gatekeeper guarding the mountainside, which surprised Jian Wushuang. After all, the black-clothed man had just talked about a second-level ruler. How could a second-level ruler be defeated by the gatekeeper? After all, a ruler is a ruler. Compared to a principal's master, the requirements are naturally higher. I'm just a principal's master. I don't need a superior ruler's battle strength to pass you, right? Jian Wushuang asked. Of course not, but it's not easy to pass me. Do you want to give it a try? The black-clothed man looked at Jian Wushuang with a faint smile. Of course. I didn't come to heaven-treading mountain just for a walk, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Okay. The black-clothed man stood up and said, Then let's begin. Here. Jian Wushuang frowned. They were still at the foot of the heaven-treading mountain, and there was no spacious place for them to fight. Don't worry. It's not here. The black-clothed man smiled. The tea you just ate is special. It can bring your consciousness into a special space. I also drank a cup, so our consciousness will fight in that special space. In that special space, you can display your strength without any restrictions, even the power of the supreme treasure. Oh! Jian Wushuang's eyes lit up. He did not expect that the cup of tea he had just eaten would have such an effect. Wait a moment, the tea is about to take effect, the black-clothed man said. Sure enough, Jian Wushuang felt that his body was light and his consciousness was being pulled by a special power. Soon he came to a special space. This was the sky above a vast sea, which spanned hundreds of millions of miles. Not to mention Jian Wushuang, even several masters of the second or third level could fight wantonly here. Not long after Jian Wushuang's figure condensed in the sky above the sea, the black-clothed man appeared. Little guy, let's fight. The black-clothed man smiled faintly. He casually flipped his hand and took out a pitch-black long spear. Although the pitch-black spear exuded an ancient aura, its power was very ordinary. Obviously, it was not a great supreme treasure. Jian Wushuang did not waste any time and immediately unsheathed the netherworld divine sword. Clang! A surge of astonishing sword essence instantly swept out. With the netherworld divine sword in hand, Jian Wushuang immediately sensed the power of the netherworld divine sword. Sure enough, even in the space of consciousness, the power of the netherworld sword is the same as in reality. Jian Wushuang revealed a smile. Then he moved and attacked. Whoosh! A cold sword light slashed out from a distance. The sword light slashed through the void, but it created a huge crack in the sea below. Oh! Overlord-level battle prowess. The black-robed man revealed a surprised expression. You do have some power. No wonder you are so confident. The black-robed man smiled calmly. He had been guarding this heaven-treading mountain for countless years. He had spent countless chaos cycles within this star field, and countless principles masters had come to challenge him during this period of time. However, among these principles masters, very few were able to unleash the battle strength of a ruler. Jian Wushuang was undoubtedly one of them. However, even if you have the battle strength of a ruler, it won't be so easy for you to pass me. The black-clothed man looked relaxed and casual. When he saw the cold sword light coming at him, He raised his hand and thrust 3 spears forward. Swish! 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 It was as if 3 streams of light flashed at the same time. One of the streams of light collided with the sword light and directly destroyed it, while the other 2 streams of light rushed toward Jian Wushuang from the left and the right respectively. At the same time, a special realm rose up. In a moment, Jian Wushuang felt that he had fallen into the endless waves, and the 2 streams of light that rushed toward him were the 2 waves. Interesting. Jian Wushuang smiled and easily moved away from the 2 streams of light. However, before he could continue to attack, the black-clothed man casually waved his wrist. Suddenly, a large number of waves swept toward him. They came from all directions and rushed toward his divine body. Jian Wushuang waved his hand, and sword shadows burst out and destroyed the waves. However, there were so many waves that it seemed endless. Humph! Jian Wushuang's eyes turned cold, and the divine power in his hand suddenly burst out. Whoosh! A cold sword light suddenly swept out. This sword light, with a hatred that would not rest until death, swept across the void with a crushing force and directly tore apart the waves in front of him. No matter how strong your spear technique essence realm is, just tear it apart, Jian Wushuang muttered. However, just as the wave was torn apart, boom! A large amount of air waves rolled up crazily, like endless waves rolling up in the sea. These waves surged up and swept toward Jian Wushuang with astonishing power. In an instant, Jian Wushuang seemed to have become a lone boat among the waves. This spear technique! Jian Wushuang could not help feeling a little shocked. The power displayed by the black-clothed man was not very strong. At most, he was at the level of a primary ruler. But his spear technique, especially the concept contained in his spear technique, was terrifyingly rich. The concept was like an endless rolling wave that kept rolling, causing Jian Wushuang to be completely trapped and unable to break free. Whoosh! 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 The endless waves rolled, and in the middle of the waves, waves of waves, emitting an astonishing cold air continuously swept toward Jian Wushuang. The waves were endless. Jian Wushuang was completely submerged by these waves. In the face of these crazy waves, Jian Wushuang also fully displayed his swordsmanship. Countless sword lights were displayed in his hands. These sword lights were extremely fast and mysterious. Each sword light contained the sword principle universe origin and collided with the crazily surging waves. In a short while, Jian Wushuang had collided with the crazily surging waves more than 10,000 times. However, the waves were endless and still crazily swept over. Amazing! This spear technique is endless. It's really amazing. Jian Wushuang could not help but exclaim in his heart. This is the real spear technique. The essence contained in it is simply unfathomable. It's completely different from the spear techniques used by the spear experts I've met before. He had met many experts who were good at spear techniques before. He had also met a superior ruler like Master Qing. However, whether it was the principal's masters and rulers who were good at spear techniques, or a superior ruler like Master Qing, their spear techniques were very impressive, but most of them were simple. They were either extremely powerful or they were terrifyingly fast. Although they also contained profound mysteries, the essence of their spear techniques was not that high. At least, he would not be caught in the endless waves like he was now. Although the black-clothed man's spear technique was not very powerful, it was much more brilliant than any of the spear techniques he had encountered before. If he was an ordinary principal's master or an ordinary primary ruler, as long as he was caught in the endless waves, he would have no chance to struggle out. He would only be trapped in the waves, he would be trampled on. Compared to Jian Wushuang's shock, the black-clothed man was also quite surprised. This little guy is trapped in my wave form. How could he last so long? The black-clothed man could not help but look at Jian Wushuang again. Because he was the gatekeeper, he could not display much of his strength when facing Jian Wushuang, the principal's master. Even the wave form, which he was using now, contained only 1,000th of the essence and mystery of the spear technique. Even so, it was still not something that a master of rules or even an ordinary primary ruler could withstand. However, Jian Wushuang had been stuck in the endless waves for so long, and he was still persisting. Naturally, the black-clothed man was impressed. At this moment, Jian Wushuang, who had been stuck in the endless waves and looked like he could only passively resist the waves, finally began to erupt. "I'm not playing with you anymore. Break!" Jian Wushuang shouted. He did not increase his power. Instead, he held his sword with both hands and slashed out furiously. The strongest sword skill that Jian Wushuang had created, the falling yellow springs. A huge sword light instantly swept out. Cold and merciless, it seemed to be able to tear apart all obstacles in front of it. Most importantly, the moment the sword light was unleashed, the black-clothed man clearly sensed a trace of the aura of the universe's principles from the sword light. This sword! The black-clothed man's pupils constricted. The cold and merciless sword light tore apart all obstacles in front of it, tearing apart the endless waves. Even the spear technique concept surrounding the world was torn apart. The endless waves dissipated. However, the cold and merciless sword light continued to slash toward the black-clothed man behind it. The black-clothed man raised the long spear in his hand to block in front of him. Clang! With a loud sound, the black-clothed man's body was incomparably heavy. He took a few steps back before he managed to regain his footing. In the space of consciousness, the victor and loser had been determined. In a pavilion at the foot of heaven-treading mountain, Jian Wushuang and the black-clothed man opened their eyes almost at the same time. "Senior, thank you." Jian Wushuang looked at the black-clothed man in front of him and bowed slightly. Before this, Jian Wushuang had only addressed the black-clothed man as, "Your Excellency." But after the battle in the consciousness space, Jian Wushuang understood that the other party's realm was much higher than his. The reason why he was able to defeat the black-robed man in the space of consciousness was mainly because he was the gatekeeper. Against a principles master like him, he could only display a certain level of strength. As for the black-robed man's true strength, it was undoubtedly much stronger than Jian Wushuang's. The profound mysteries contained in the spear he used in the space of consciousness alone were enough to prove his monstrous strength. "I didn't expect you, a mere principles master, to have grasped a trace of the aura of the universe principles. It's really rare." The black-clothed man looked at Jian Wushuang with admiration. Then he shook his head and said, "Although you have some strength and passed the test of my guarding, what you will face next is the test on the mountainside. Although the guard on the mountainside is not much stronger than me, his combat strength on the mountainside is far above mine. If your strength is only at the level of the consciousness space, I advise you to give up, because there is no chance for you to pass the test on the mountainside. Senior, you just lost too quickly. How would you know that that is my strongest strength?" Jian Wushuang said with a faint smile. "Oh? It seems that you still have some strength left." The black-clothed man smiled slightly. "Well, I won't persuade you anymore. Go. I hope you can pass the test on the mountainside." Jian Wushuang bowed to the black-clothed man again, then left the pavilion and continued to walk up the stairs. Seeing Jian Wushuang leave, the black-clothed man slowly sat down and poured himself another bowl of tea. It seems that the little guy didn't use his full strength in the consciousness space just now. It's possible that he hid a lot of his strength. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so confident, the black-clothed man said in a low voice. In his opinion, he had already shown his strong skills in the space of consciousness, which meant that the test on the mountainside was much more difficult than his. However, Jian Wushuang still looked so confident. This showed that Jian Wushuang's strength was far more powerful than what was shown in the space of consciousness. And it was true. In the space of consciousness, what Jian Wushuang showed was only his swordsmanship. As for the power he used was only at the level of an elementary ruler, the same as the black-clothed man. As for secret skills, methods, and supreme treasures, he did not use them. Could be said that most of his battle strength was hidden. What was shown in the space of consciousness just now was just the tip of the iceberg. Because of this, when the black-clothed man talked about how difficult the test on the mountainside was, Jian Wushuang did not worry at all. On the contrary, he was absolutely confident. "Ha! If that's the case, then it'll be interesting." The black-clothed man suddenly let out a strange laugh. With a thought, he sent a voice transmission. "Old man, a little guy will come to you soon. You have to be careful." That little guy is not weak. Don't fail miserably. After saying this, the black-clothed man ignored his response and closed his eyes. After defeating the black-clothed man in the space of consciousness and passing the test at the foot of the mountain, Jian Wushuang continued to move forward. After going through thousands of steps, Jian Wushuang finally arrived at the mountainside of the heaven-treading mountain. Beside the steps on the mountainside, there was a simple cottage. Jian Wushuang stepped into the cottage with the door open. He immediately saw a crude table and a white-bearded, white-robed elder sitting cross-legged on a futon. The white-bearded, white-robed elder had a weathered face and a thin body. Like the black-robed man at the foot of the mountain, he did not exude any aura. He sat there like an old monk meditating, making the entire hut seem quiet. Heavenly Sword Marquis. Greetings, Senior. Jian Wushuang bowed slightly and bowed to the white-bearded, white-robed elder. The white-bearded, white-robed elder opened his eyes, revealing a pair of strange eyes that faintly glowed with white light. The pair of eyes seemed to contain no emotion at all and were extremely cold. Principal's master? The white-bearded, white-robed elder raised his head to look at Jian Wushuang and nodded slightly. To be able to reach the level of Principal's master, you're the fourth one to reach my level in the past few chaos cycles. Little guy, you're very good. The white-bearded, white-robed elder's words clearly contained a trace of admiration. Upon hearing the white-bearded, white-robed elder's words, Jian Wushuang's heart was moved. The white-bearded, white-robed elder had mentioned the recent chaos cycles. Jian Wushuang estimated that the Red Cloud world had been born in the star field for a few chaos cycles. During these few chaos cycles, he was the fourth Principal's master to walk in front of him. In other words, there had been 3 other Principal's masters in this star field who had reached this step before him. Jian Wushuang was not surprised by this. After all, it had been a few chaos cycles. Over such a long period of time, countless Principal's masters had been born in this star field, and some of them were top-notch geniuses. It was normal for a few top-notch geniuses to have battle strength comparable to a ruler at the level of a Principal's master, or even very strong at the level of a primary ruler. Although the test at the foot of the mountain was not easy to pass, Jian Wushuang estimated that a Principal's master with the battle strength at the peak of a primary ruler might be able to pass it. It was normal for 3 Principal's masters to pass the test at the foot of the mountain after a few chaos cycles. Senior, you are the gatekeeper at the mountainside. Do I have to defeat you to reach the peak? Jian Wushuang asked. Yes, you have to pass me if you want to keep going up. However, I'm different from the one at the foot of the mountain. As a Principal's master, you can easily pass as long as you have an advanced level master of the first level. Even a master at the top of the first level, the beginner level, has a high chance of passing his level. However, ordinary advanced level masters can't pass me. The white-bearded, white-robed elder said with a smile. I will try my best, Jian Wushuang said. Okay. Eat this bowl of tea first. The white-bearded elder waved his hand and 2 bowls of tea appeared on the rough table in front of him. The white-bearded elder handed one of the bowls to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang was no longer surprised to see the white-bearded, white-robed elder take out tea. Without hesitation, Jian Wushuang picked up a bowl of tea from the table and ate it. Jian Wushuang frowned when he ate the tea. Unlike the tea taken out by the black-robed man at the foot of the mountain, the black-robed man's tea, although extremely bitter, had a great taste. It was warm and comfortable to drink, but the tea taken out by the white-bearded, white-robed elder, extremely unpleasant to drink. What? It's very unpleasant to drink, isn't it? The white-bearded, white-robed elder looked over. I can't help it. I'm not good at making tea, but the effect of this tea is the same. It will also bring you into a space of consciousness. You and I will fight in the space of consciousness. After saying that, the white-bearded, white-robed elder also ate the bowl of tea in front of him. Soon, the effect of the tea came into play. Jian Wushuang and the white-bearded, white-robed elder's consciousness had entered a special space of consciousness. This place was no longer the vast sea, but the center of a barren mountain range. There were bare mountains around and under their feet. The scorching sun baked the air, making it a little hot. The white-bearded, white-robed elder stood in the void. Unlike the outside world, this white-bearded, white-robed elder seemed to have transformed into a different person after coming to this space of consciousness. His body was filled with a monstrous aura. This aura was wild and violent. The heat was like a raging flame. "Little fellow, take this." The white-bearded, white-robed elder did not say a single word. In this space of consciousness, he directly attacked. He did not use any weapons. He was purely relying on his own palm. His palm was completely red, as if it had just been burned by a raging fire. "Volcano, collapse!" With a fierce shout, the white-bearded, white-robed elder fiercely slapped out with his palm. In an instant, a large amount of red air waves rolled out. These red air waves gathered crazily, and in an instant, they actually gathered into a towering mountain that was 30,000 feet tall. This mountain was surrounded by raging flames that burned everything in the world. Boom! The terrifying flaming mountain fell from the sky and pressed down on Jian Wushuang. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A series of ear-piercing and shrill gusts of wind came. The wind was so strong that Jian Wushuang could hardly open his eyes. He could only raise his head and look at the endless mountain above him. The power of the mountain. It was earth-shaking. The power of an advanced ruler, and this move is very powerful. Jian Wushuang had a rough idea of the strength of the white-bearded, white-robed elder. The black-robed man at the foot of the mountain was only an elementary ruler, but his spear skills were superb and extremely powerful. The power of the white-bearded, white-robed elder was definitely at the advanced ruler level. The way he used the move, the towering mountains, and the terrifying air waves were enough to make one's heart skip a beat. This technique was no less powerful than the black-robed man's spear technique. Sensing the power of the towering mountain, Jian Wushuang naturally did not hold back his strength. The life, divine power, heaven-cleaving skill, and the power of the will given by the universe principles were unleashed at this moment. Break! With a low roar, Jian Wushuang slashed out with the netherworld divine sword in his hand. Starfire burning sun. Whoosh! A fierce and direct sword light rushed out with an unprecedented violent and unstoppable momentum. Using violence to counter violence. The same extreme violence and the same majestic power. In the blink of an eye, the fierce sword light collided with the towering mountain that fell from the sky. Bang! With a loud sound, the world rumbled. The towering mountain that was hundreds of thousands of feet tall was actually directly cleaved apart by that ferocious sword light. The sword cleaved apart the mountain, and it was even cleaving at the gigantic mountain of flames that was completely condensed by the white-bearded, white-robed old man's divine power. Walala! A large amount of power crazily charged out in all directions, and the entire world was in the midst of a large area of flames. Oh! When the white-bearded, white-robed elder saw the majestic volcano being directly split open, his eyes lit up. To be able to directly split open the first layer of my volcano, you little fellow really have some ability. However, my volcano has a total of 9 layers. The 9 layers of volcano secret art that I created. Although my strength is currently limited, and the power and profoundness that I can unleash is only 1,000th, it isn't something that an ordinary person can withstand. Boy, let's see how many layers of volcanoes you can block. As soon as he finished his words, the white-bearded, white-robed elder's divine power surged crazily. Red air billowed in the sky, and towering volcanoes that were even taller than before appeared one after another. These volcanoes took shape, and each of them contained much more power and pressure than the previous one. Volcano destroy! The white-bearded and white-robed elder roared. The volcanoes that had already taken shape immediately rushed toward Jian Wushuang one after another. The terrifying power suppressed everything in the world. At this moment, the earth under Jian Wushuang's feet, which was separated by the void, could no longer withstand the terrifying power of these volcanoes and exploded. The entire world was filled with an aura of destruction. In the blink of an eye, the second volcano had arrived. After the second volcano, there were the third and fourth volcanoes. As for the fifth volcano, it was in the process of condensing. 9 volcanoes? Jian Wushuang's eyes flashed with a trace of shock, but there was more excitement. Come on! Jian Wushuang was not afraid at all. He released his divine power to the extreme. He knew that the volcanoes contained earth-shaking power, but he did not intend to retreat. Instead, he soared into the sky. He faced the volcanoes bravely. Then boom! A terrifying sword light suddenly lit up. Bang! 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 A series of earth-shaking noises could be heard. The second volcano was directly smashed into pieces by the sword light. Then the third and fourth volcanoes were formed. Even the fifth and sixth volcanoes, which were more powerful, could not withstand the earth-shaking power of Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship and were destroyed one by one. Bang! Another loud sound was heard. The seventh volcano was also split open by Jian Wushuang. What? The scene in front of him made the white-bearded, white-robed elder look surprised. But then he burst into laughter. Haha! Good boy. I have been guarding the star field for several chaos cycles. 3 Principles Masters came to me. They were also hit by my 9-stage volcano secret skill, but the weakest one could not even survive the second volcano. Even the strongest one could only survive the 5th volcano and could not withstand the 6th volcano. And you have survived the 7th volcano? To be able to withstand my 7th volcano, you are already stronger than any of the Principles Masters who have come here before. However, although my 9-layered volcano secret technique is stronger than the previous one, it is a qualitative transformation from the 8th layer onwards. Brat, let's see if you can still withstand my 8th volcano. The white-bearded and white-robed elder laughed loudly. In the void, the 8th towering volcano had already formed. This volcano was much larger than the previous 7-layered volcano in terms of size. The power of the volcano was even more earth-shattering. Whoosh! Whoosh! As the volcano slowly descended, the terrifying wind crushed down. Jian Wushuang felt that his ears were ringing. This power is indeed much stronger than the previous 7-layered volcano. Jian Wushuang nodded secretly, but he was not afraid at all. The moment the towering volcano descended, he suddenly struck out with his sword. Whoosh! A sword light suddenly lit up. It was cold and merciless, as if it could tear apart all obstacles in front of it. There was also a trace of the aura of the universe principles in the sword light. In an instant, it collided with the volcano that was slowly descending. Bang! An earth-shaking and terrifying roar sounded, and a large amount of majestic power spread wildly in all directions. The 8th volcano formed by the white-bearded and white-robed elder had completely collapsed. However, the cold and ruthless sword light also slowly dissipated. The 8th volcano was still resisted by Jian Wushuang. The aura of the universe's principles? The white-bearded, white-robed elder was surprised. He could naturally see the aura of the universe principles contained in Jian Wushuang's sword. He was naturally surprised that a mere principles master could grasp a trace of the aura of the universe principles. However, the white-bearded, white-robed elder laughed loudly and said, "Boy, you're very good. Look at my 9th level of the volcano." Majestic air currents gathered crazily, and a terrifying power condensed in the void above. In the blink of an eye, the 9th volcano was formed. This volcano was not much bigger than the 8th one, but the power and aura of destruction gathered in the volcano was much bigger than that of the 8th volcano. When the volcano was completely formed, the vast world fell silent for a short while. This power is very close to that of a superior ruler. Jian Wushuang's pupils shrank. The 9th volcano formed by the white-bearded and white-robed elder brought him great pressure. At this moment, Jian Wushuang did not hold back anymore. His body suddenly shook, and a dragon's cry suddenly sounded in the world. The dragon's cry was accompanied by a monstrous hatred. Immediately, a majestic murderous aura surged out from the dark gold magic dragon armor and directly covered Jian Wushuang's entire body. The second stage of the dark gold magic dragon armor's power, 30% of the magic dragon's power, instantly increased Jian Wushuang's strength to a new level. "I'm tired of watching your volcanoes. You'd better leave," Jian Wushuang said softly, and the netherworld divine sword in his hand directly slashed down. It was the same move of the netherworld. It was the same cold and ruthless sword light that seemed to be able to tear everything in front of it apart. The difference was that the power that Jian Wushuang had just unleashed was only the limit of an advanced ruler. Now, with 30% magic dragon soul, his power had barely reached the threshold of a superior ruler. The power of a superior ruler using the netherworld was naturally far more powerful than what he had just displayed. Whoosh! The cold and merciless sword light directly passed through the towering volcano. Before the 9th layer of the volcano, which the white-bearded white-robed elder had just formed, was completely cut open by Jian Wushuang's sword light. The power of the sword light did not decrease as it continued to cut toward the white-bearded white-robed elder. The white-bearded white-robed elder's face changed. He staggered and immediately retreated after being hit by the sword light. He looked quite miserable. "Senior, thank you for letting me win," Jian Wushuang said with a smile. "Top-tier, first-level battle strength?" The white-bearded, white-robed elder frowned and looked at Jian Wushuang solemnly. While the two of them were talking, their consciousness had slowly left the space. In a cottage on the mountainside of Heaven-Treading Mountain, Jian Wushuang and the white-bearded, white-robed elder, who was sitting on a futon, opened their eyes at the same time. "Boy, you actually have top-tier, first-level battle strength?" The white-bearded, white-robed elder raised his head to look at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang just smiled faintly. "Not bad." The white-bearded, white-robed elder nodded in praise. "The Red Cloud world has been in this star field for several chaos cycles. In such a long time, I don't know how many principals, masters, and rulers have come here to explore. But before you, no principal's master or ruler has been able to walk past me. You are the first." "I was just lucky," Jian Wushuang said humbly. "A principal's master with top-tier first-level battle strength is also lucky?" The white-bearded elder rolled his eyes at Jian Wushuang. Then he said, "But don't be too proud. Although you've passed my test, it's still not easy for you to reach the top of Heaven-Treading Mountain." "Senior, do you mean that there are other gatekeepers on Heaven-Treading Mountain?" Jian Wushuang frowned and asked. "Right." The old man with white beard and white robe nodded. "Is it on the peak?" Jian Wushuang asked. "It seems that you have guessed." The white-bearded, white-robed old man just smiled. Jian Wushuang was silent. When Taoist Shen God and the others told him about the Heaven-Treading Mountain and that it had 2 trials at the foot and halfway of the mountain, and that there were 2 gatekeepers, he had already been thinking that on the peak of the Heaven-Treading Mountain, is there a 3rd test? However, no one could answer this question for him. After all, no one in this star field had ever been able to pass this pass on the mountainside. Naturally, no one was qualified to go to the summit. As for whether there was a 3rd test on the summit, no one knew. And now, he is finally the first to pass the mountainside test. The white-beard, white-robe elder will be on the peak of the 3rd test, told him. "Senior, is the test on the peak the same as the one at the foot of the mountain and on the mountainside?" Jian Wushuang could not help asking. "Well, I can't tell you." The white-bearded, white-robed elder shook his head. "But I can tell you that the test on the mountaintop is the final test in the first heaven of the Red Cloud world. As long as you pass the test on the mountaintop, you can go to the 2nd heaven of the Red Cloud world. At the same time, you can get some unexpected benefits." "Oh!" Jian Wushuang's expression changed and he nodded. "Thank you for telling me." After learning from the white-bearded and white-robed elder that there was a 3rd trial at the peak, Jian Wushuang did not stay any longer. Instead, he continued to walk up the steps toward the peak. On the way, Jian Wushuang's heart was quite heavy. Previously, when he had not really come to the Heaven-Treading Mountain, he was still very confident in his strength. Even after passing the test at the foot of the mountain, he was still full of confidence. He believed that, with his strength, the test at the Heaven-Treading Mountain should not be difficult for him. However, after passing the test at the mountainside, which was the battle with the white-bearded, white-robed old man, he did not have that much confidence. One had to know that in the battle with the white-bearded, white-robed old man, he had truly gone all out. He had used all of his methods to defeat his opponent. The strength that the white-bearded, white-robed old man had displayed in that space of consciousness was definitely at the highest level among the advanced rulers. For example, when he had been adventuring in the Red Cloud world, he had met the so-called number 1 advanced ruler in the star area, the Doom ruler. The Doom ruler's strength was definitely not comparable to the white-bearded, white-robed old man. And the white-bearded, white-robed old man's strength also proved a problem. The strength of the black-robed man at the foot of the mountain was the ultimate strength of a primary ruler. At the waist of the mountain, the white-bearded, white-robed elder was the ultimate strength of a superior ruler. If this continued, would the test at the peak be the ultimate strength of a superior ruler? A superior ruler, even if he used all his trump cards, his battle strength could barely reach the threshold of a superior ruler. If the gatekeeper at the peak really had the ultimate strength of a superior ruler, it would be impossible for him to defeat his opponent. I can only take it one step at a time. I hope the test on the peak is not so ridiculous. Jian Wushuang could only sigh inwardly. After crossing over 10,000 steps, Jian Wushuang finally reached the top of Heaven-Treading Mountain. However, when he was dozens of steps away from the top of Heaven-Treading Mountain, he saw a snow-white figure half lying there. The snow-white figure was covered in snow-white fur. It was tall and had the face of an ape-man. Obviously, this snow-white figure was not a human cultivator, but a special race in the universe. Is it the gatekeeper of the peak? Jian Wushuang frowned slightly. In his perception, the snow-white ape-man also did not emit any aura. He lay motionless on the ground, as if he had fallen asleep. Even though he was close, the snow-white ape-man did not respond. Jian Wushuang walked to the snow-white ape-man and saw that the ape-man still had his eyes closed. He could not help saying awkwardly, "Senior." "What?" Hearing Jian Wushuang's voice, the snow-white ape-man finally reacted. He turned slightly and slowly opened his eyes. A pair of strange cyan eyes instantly locked on Jian Wushuang. A human cultivator? The snow-white ape-man stared at Jian Wushuang. At first, he was shocked, but then he was overjoyed. He immediately jumped up. "Haha, a human cultivator. After so many years, there is finally a human cultivator here. Hey, hey! Three-eyed demon woman, Stone, hurry down. A human cultivator is here." The snow-white ape-man's laughter echoed. Suddenly, two streams of light rushed over from the top step and appeared beside the snow-white ape-man. The streams of light disappeared, and two figures appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. One of the two people was a graceful, beautiful, and extremely charming woman. Most of the parts of this charming woman were the same as that of a human woman. The only difference was that between her eyebrows, she had a strange pupil that emitted a dim light. She had a third eye, a vertical eye. As for the other person, he was a stone man over 5 meters tall, made of special rocks. He had no nose, no ears, only a mouth and a pair of sunken eyes. Jian Wushuang was shocked to see these two people. Snow-white ape-man, three-eyed demon woman, 5-meter-tall stone man. These three people obviously came from a special race in the universe, and they were all extraordinary. Jian Wushuang thought there was only one gatekeeper at the peak, just like at the foot of the mountain and at the waist of the mountain. He did not expect there to be three people. As for how strong these three people would be, Jian Wushuang could not guess. Haha! They are indeed human cultivators. The three-eyed demon woman stared at Jian Wushuang with a strange glint in her eyes. It's been a long time since I've seen a human cultivator. It's been hundreds of chaos cycles since the Red Cloud world was lost. Tisk, tsk. When I was adventuring in the universe, my favorite thing was to eat the meat of these human cultivators. The stronger I was, the better the meat would be. It's a pity that I was caught and sent to the Red Cloud world. Since then, I've never tasted a human cultivator. The snow-white ape-man stared at Jian Wushuang. His mouth was slightly agape, and there was a trace of greed in his eyes. It's not that you don't know the rules of the Red Cloud world. This human cultivator came here to pass the test. You two better not have any other thoughts. The 5-meter-tall stone man was more honest. His voice was incomparably heavy. Humph, don't worry. We know the rules of the Red Cloud world. We don't dare to violate them. The three-eyed demon woman smiled. It's a pity. If we were in the outside world, I would have eaten him, but this is the Red Cloud world. The snow-white ape-man also revealed a regretful look. Hearing the conversation between the three people, Jian Wushuang's heart could not help tightening. especially when he heard the Snow-White Ape-Man say that he liked to eat human cultivators' meat. His expression changed. Fortunately, the three people were afraid of the rules of the Red Cloud world and did not dare to act recklessly, which made Jian Wushuang feel relieved. "Are all of you the gatekeepers at the peak?" Jian Wushuang looked at the three people in front of him. "Yes," the three-eyed demon woman said. "As a principal's master, it's already good enough for you to get here. However, the peak is guarded by the three of us. If you want to go to the second heaven, you have to pass through the three of us. However, the level guarded by the three of us cannot be easily passed by anyone. Little guy, you're just a principal's master, so the three of us will naturally restrain our power. Even so, it's not easy for those first-level masters to pass through us. Do you want to give it a try?" The Snow-White Ape-Man curled his finger at Jian Wushuang. "Let me challenge the three of you." Jian Wushuang looked calmly at the three people in front of him. "Haha, not bad, not bad. I was worried that you would be so scared that you wouldn't dare to attack us." The Snow-White Ape-Man smiled strangely. The three-eyed demon woman waved her hand and said, "Eat this cup of tea." Seeing the tea taken out by the three-eyed demon woman, a refreshing fragrance immediately assailed Jian Wushuang's nostrils. Jian Wushuang's expression changed, and he picked up the tea and ate it. Suddenly, Jian Wushuang felt his mind rumbling. His body and mind relaxed, and the throbbing of his heart completely calmed down. "This tea," Jian Wushuang revealed a surprised look. "This is a heart-cleansing tea personally planted by the three-eyed demon woman. It has the effect of concentrating and calming the mind. If it were placed in the universe, it would have a certain value. It's not something that ordinary people can eat." The Snow-White Ape-Man smiled. "The three-eyed demon woman actually took out this tea to serve you. You are really lucky." Jian Wushuang smiled, but his consciousness had already been attracted. Buzz, buzz, the world changed. Jian Wushuang had already appeared in a space of consciousness. Here, he was in the middle of a vast mountain range. This mountain range was very desolate. There were boulders and bald peaks everywhere. The three-eyed demon woman, the Snow-White Ape-Man, and the 5-meter-tall stone man also appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. "Little guy, we are going to make a move. Be careful," the three-eyed demon woman reminded him. Jian Wushuang's expression was solemn. The netherworld divine sword had already appeared in his hand. Although he could not see the real strength of the three people in front of him, he could tell from the test at the foot of the mountain and the mountainside that they must be very powerful. "You three, come at me?" Jian Wushuang said in a clear voice. "Not bad, you are quite calm." The three-eyed demon woman smiled slightly. However, the Snow-White Ape-Man beside her had already made a move. The 2-meter-tall body of the Snow-White Ape-Man suddenly jumped, and Jian Wushuang saw a snow-white figure suddenly sway between heaven and earth. Boom! A terrible air explosion suddenly sounded. An inexplicable chill suddenly swept over. Jian Wushuang opened his eyes wide, but he saw that a large amount of snowflakes had been floating in the void around him. The snowflakes flew, and a huge snow-white fist had already arrived in front of him. So fast! Jian Wushuang was surprised. And this power, the battle strength of a superior ruler. When the Snow-White Ape-Man attacked, the power contained in his fist was enough to make Jian Wushuang's state of mind. The power contained in his fist was undoubtedly that of a superior ruler. Humph! With a cold snort, Jian Wushuang's power reached its peak. His life divine power, heaven-cleaving skill, and even the second stage of the dark gold magic dragon armor burst out at this moment. As soon as he made his move, Jian Wushuang went all out. He had no choice but to go all out to deal with an expert at the superior ruler level. Whoosh! A dazzling sword light, with an endless hatred, instantly collided with the huge snow-white fist. Clang! The sound of metal colliding rang out. Jian Wushuang's body slightly shook, but he immediately took a few steps back. The Snow-White Ape-Man also stopped in the void and took half a step back. "Oh? You can block my punch head-on. Not bad." The Snow-White Ape-Man smiled. Jian Wushuang's heart was extremely heavy. He had used all of his power, but he was still at an absolute disadvantage in a head-on collision. There was nothing he could do. His battle strength had barely reached the threshold of a superior ruler, but the strength that the snow-white ape-man had burst out in an instant was definitely at the level of a superior ruler. It was normal for Jian Wushuang to be at a disadvantage when the two fought. "Boy, let's try again." The ape-man grinned, revealing his white teeth, and moved again. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The ape-man was extremely fast. When he moved, only white afterimages could be seen flashing in the void. The fist of the snow-white ape-man was already smashing toward Jian Wushuang. This speed! Jian Wushuang clenched his teeth and spread out the huge black wings on his back. He immediately displayed the celestial light wings and the mystic light phantom movement skill. Swish! 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 Numerous ghostly figures burst out at the same time. They moved closer and closer, making Jian Wushuang's figure become ethereal. Under the crazy changes of his figure, Jian Wushuang and the snow-white ape-man began to fight. Bang! 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 The low sound of collision sounded one after another. Jian Wushuang and the snow-white ape-man were already fighting crazily. Not long after, Jian Wushuang even used a domain-type technique. But even so, he still could not gain any advantage in the fierce battle. As the battle went on, Jian Wushuang's heart became heavier and heavier. The snow-white ape-man's speed is too fast, and his movement is also very strange. Although I have the celestial light wings of the mystic light, the movement skills of the mystic light phantom, and the suppression of the domain, I still only have a slight advantage in speed and movement skills, but his power is stronger than mine. The difference in power can completely destroy my advantage in movement skills. Jian Wushuang frowned. He had basically used all of his techniques. Even so, he was only evenly matched with the snow-white ape-man. In fact, the snow-white ape-man might still have some techniques that he had not used yet. In other words, even if it was a one-on-one, he wouldn't be able to defeat the snow-white ape-man. But one had to know that the test at the summit was a 1-on-3. The three-eyed demon woman and the 5-meter-tall stone man had been standing by the side from the beginning to the end. They had yet to make a move. Just one person was already giving him so much pressure. If the three of them made a move at the same time. Hee, White Ape, you are a genius of the Emperor Ape clan, yet you can't even deal with a little fellow who is the principal's master. Isn't that too embarrassing? The three-eyed demon woman teased. When the snow-white ape-man who was in the midst of an intense battle heard these words, his eyes immediately surged with raging flames of anger. You too. Don't just stand there and talk like it's nothing. It's not that you don't know how great the restrictions I face in the Red Cloud world are. Not to mention my strength and cultivation. Even my absolute arts and secret arts can't display much power. Otherwise, how could I not be able to deal with this brat? The snow-white ape-man was also very aggrieved. Just like the two gatekeepers at the foot of the mountain and at the mountainside, the three people on the peak were also greatly restricted. They could not even use 1/10 of their strength. Otherwise, a principal's master like Jian Wushuang was no different from an ant in their eyes. If we can't do anything to him, then we can't do anything to him. Why are you still trying to quibble? The three-eyed demon woman sneered. The two of you stop talking nonsense. Hurry up and attack together. Don't forget that we don't have much time. If we really let this brat pass through our hands, then we'll really be laughing our asses off. The snow-white ape-man shouted sternly. Hearing the snow-white ape-man's words, the three-eyed demon woman and the 5-meter-tall stone man's expressions turned solemn. Stone attack, the three-eyed demon woman said. Cooperate with me. The 5-meter-tall stone man nodded. Hong! The void suddenly trembled, and the entire land began to shake wildly at this moment. On those desolate mountains, large amounts of large boulders suddenly floated up. These boulders were densely packed, and with the 5-meter-tall stone man as the core, they formed a huge sea of boulders in an instant. The stone man, which was originally only 5 meters tall, suddenly expanded in size at this moment, directly reaching nearly 1,000 feet tall. The stone man, which was nearly 1,000 feet tall, emitted a monstrous aura. 2 streams of air spewed out from the sunken eye sockets. The 300-meter-tall stone man stretched out his thick arms, directly picked up a huge rock in the void, and then raised it high. The huge rock was comparable to an ordinary mountain, and it must have weighed tens of billions of pounds. However, when the stone man raised his hands, it was as if he was holding a ball of cotton. Suddenly, the 5-meter-tall stone man let out a sharp cry. The huge rock, which weighed tens of billions of pounds and was the size of a mountain, turned into a meteor and shot toward Jian Wushuang like lightning. What? Jian Wushuang was dumbfounded. He had thought that the stone man would launch an incredible attack, but he did not expect that his attack would be so simple. He just picked up a giant rock and threw it directly at himself. Although the giant rock shot toward him at a speed that was as fast as a meteor. With Jian Wushuang's strength, it was very easy for him to dodge such a huge rock. Such an attack did not pose any danger to him. At least that was what Jian Wushuang thought. However, just as Jian Wushuang was about to move and dodge the boulder's attack, the three-eyed demon woman standing beside the 300-meter-tall stone man gave a strange smile. A dazzling purple light suddenly flashed in the third vertical eye between her eyebrows. The purple light was extremely demonic, like a huge purple sun. Jian Wushuang was immediately attracted by it. What is this? Jian Wushuang was surprised, but he was immediately shocked to find that under the purple light, he felt a sharp pain in his consciousness. The pain made him unable to control his divine body. He just stood there, motionless. The huge rock that rushed toward him like a shooting star directly hit his divine body. The huge rock weighed tens of billions of pounds and hit him at the speed of a shooting star. The impact of the star was incredible. The impact was at least not weaker than that of an ordinary superior ruler. It was even stronger than the full-strength attack of an ordinary superior ruler. Jian Wushuang was struck by such a powerful attack without any defense. Fortunately, Jian Wushuang had the protection of the dark gold magic dragon armor, so the impact was weakened by more than 90% at the first moment. The remaining power was applied to his divine body. His supreme eternal celestial body was comparable to an ordinary elementary universe supreme treasure, but the remaining part of the impact was enough to completely shatter an ordinary elementary universe supreme treasure. Bang! Jian Wushuang's body shook, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His divine body had been damaged by more than 40% of the impact. How terrifying! I have the protection of the dark gold magic dragon armor and cultivated the supreme eternal celestial body. My divine body is comparable to an ordinary elementary universe supreme treasure, but this level of attack still severely injured his divine body and damaged it by more than 40%. Jian Wushuang's eyes were filled with a trace of shock. Although he had only consumed his divine body, he could immediately use his divine power to repair it. However, it must be remembered that the stronger the divine body, the more divine power was needed to repair it. Jian Wushuang's divine body was comparable to an elementary universe true treasure. If it were an ordinary principles master, even if they used up all their divine power, they would not be able to completely repair more than 40% of their divine body. However, Jian Wushuang was a perfect life after all. His divine power was as vast as the sea, much more than that of a ruler. To repair more than 40% of his divine body, Jian Wushuang had only used 3% of his divine body. One attack has consumed 3% of my divine body. If this attack were to be repeated dozens of times, I would not be able to withstand it. Jian Wushuang's expression was a little unsightly. The attack of the 300-meter-tall stone man was very strong, much stronger than the attack of the snow-white ape-man. There was no doubt about that. However, Jian Wushuang did not care about the stone man. What he cared about was the three-eyed demon woman next to the stone man. He knew very well that he could have easily dodged the stone man's attack just now. However, it was because of the three-eyed demon woman's technique that he lost control of his divine body in a very short period of time. That was why he was hit. The three-eyed demon woman's attack was a real threat to him. What happened just now? Jian Wushuang's eyes were cold. He did not even know how he was hit. He only saw the three-eyed demon woman open her third eye and let out a purple light. Then he felt an unprecedented pain in his consciousness. Master, master. A voice suddenly sounded in Jian Wushuang's mind. Devil flame? Jian Wushuang's eyes focused. Although the soul of the devil flame was in the blood-red gourd, he knew what was happening in the outside world and could communicate with Jian Wushuang's consciousness at any time. Master, that woman should be a clansman of a special race in the universe, the Three-Eye Demon race. The Three-Eye Demon race is a very famous special race in the universe. This race has an innate advantage, which is the third eye between their eyebrows. The third eye can release different colored beams of light, which can affect the cultivator's consciousness. Master's consciousness was affected by her just now, so she couldn't avoid the stone man's attack, Devil Flame said. A special method to directly affect consciousness? Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes. Consciousness controlled the body, but it also controlled the soul. One could even say that a person's soul was derived from consciousness. In the universe, many attacks aimed at the soul, such as some special illusions and illusions, were actually also aimed at the consciousness. However, those attacks would first be blocked by the opponent's soul power. However, the Three-Eye Demon race's special attack methods were obviously different.